Guards man the barricades, patrol the cover boundary. At last the time is come, this is a cricketing emergency. Hear this call to arms for every cricket revolutionary. Take up your bats and stumps for the test match insurgency. At first they tried to silence us, but we would not be silenced. They threatened us with lies, so we threatened them with violence. Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, Guerilla cricket. It's not about the winning, it's about how many rules you break. Even in cricket commentary, this is the best advice to take. Pick guerrilla cricket, it's the finest choice you'll ever make. There's so much more to cricket than red counters and a slice of cake. But first they tried to sanitize us and clean up our act. But people like it filthy, and we know that for a fact. Fidel Castro, Lenny Pasco, Carlos the Jackal, Umar Akmal, Mahatma Gandhi, Grant and Andy, Brendan Behan, Austin Ian, guerrilla cricket. Stick with us, cause you know we're not the kind of thing that you see on the TV and the radio. So vive la revolution. First they tried to buy us, but we would not be bought. Okay, we were, but then we ran away, and we will not be caught. Would not give up the ghost when they left us all for dead. They decapitated us, but we just grew another head. Chairman Mao, Jamie Howe, Ho Chi Minh, Asif Din, Václav Havel, Graham Saville, No Surrender, Percy Fender, Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket.
It was Groundhog Day for England. I'm tempted to say another Groundhog Day, but apparently that doesn't make sense. Not much about England's batting does. But all hail the Pope, who is still in position, and he and Jimmy can add another 150.
Just don't try to touch him.
Yeah, don't touch him.
He's immaculate.
Yes, don't go down at his feet or anything like that, because you'll be in trouble. Good morning, good afternoon, good dawn, good dusk, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Guerilla Cricket. I did think about opening the segment this morning with just complete silence, because I've been rendered speechless by England's performance yesterday. But was it really that bad?
Well, that's what I was just about to ask.
Well, I'm going to ask this question of my co-commentators. By the way, I am Guerilla Hendo. Alongside me, I have Tim Hammersley. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And on my left, the voice you've already heard, is that of Andy Ward. Are we not giving enough credit to the South African bowlers, Andy? What do you think?
Well, I didn't see a ball of it yesterday,
Yeah, so you can really comment.
I can,
with total
I think
expertise.
I think that gives me an ability to comment with a clear mind. So that's
absolutely,
good.
absolutely.
Obviously, I don't know. It's always frustrating when a lot of batsmen get starts and then no one goes on big, and that's the difference between 280 and 400 a lot of the time. But according to the guys on Sky, 280 is the average first innings score at Cape Town. So let's have a look at when South Africa bat and see how we're doing after that.
Well, they always say you've got to wait till everyone's batted once. What do you think, Tim? I'm sort of on the side of, would you believe it, Jonathan Agnew, I heard talking this morning.
I don't believe it.
Yes, it is absolutely true. He said it's a beautiful day there. There's not a cloud in the sky. The tablecloth has been ripped off the mountain. Breakfast is finished. He's expecting South Africa to bat and bat because there's not enough variety in the England attack without Jofra Archer. No pace.
No, it does make a massive difference. I think from what I saw yesterday, South Africa did bowl very well.
Did you actually see any of it yesterday?
Yes,
Can we have got some people on this programme who have actually seen
that
some
just
cricket.
makes you biased, in my opinion.
I did see a good chunk. South Africa did bowl well, but as you said, I do worry for England's prospects later today with a fairly one-track bowling attack. Be interesting to see. I think Dom Bess will play potentially quite an important role today. Can he provide some kind of stability and hold in the attack, which I think will be important. But yes, I do worry that we could end up in a situation where we have them 3 down by lunch, but they're still 3 down by the close of play, as is so often the way these days.
Mind you, we'd take 3 down at lunch, wouldn't we? Blimey, yes, indeed. Dominic Best, this is going to be interesting, isn't it? He's out after a bizarre summer in which he's loaned out by Somerset to Yorkshire. He suddenly finds himself back in the England team. He goes out yesterday, gets himself a nice friendly golden duck, and now is expected to be the frontline spinner in I suppose a controlling role initially, and then later taking wickets. But is that expecting a bit much of him? I think it is.
I think it probably is. Is Leach still unavailable?
He's still got rancid guts, yes.
Okay.
He always has got, because he's got Crohn's disease, so it's always worse for him if he gets some sort of gastroenteritis or whatever.
I see. Yeah.
The poor man has just been suffering all winter, hasn't he? Everywhere he's gone, New Zealand, he's just been flying to different countries to be ill in, basically.
How's he going to get on in India then?
Well,
he's already been there.
Well, yes, so that's a fair point, for sure. Your feelings, Archer? Is he going to be a big miss?
I think so, just to provide some variety, as you're saying. I understand. Did Naughty bowled well yesterday?
He did bowl pretty well
with the extra pace.
Yep, that helped.
And it's up to Anderson and Broad, who, again, according to the guys on Sky this morning, still have something to prove for some reason.
Something to prove with what, about 950 Test wickets between them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's time comes sooner or later.
I don't think you're really in a team till you've got 1,000 wickets. And then you can look back and say, well, yes, I've done.
That's fair. I think that's a fair approach.
I consolidated
to
my position
to bowlers. Yeah.
Anyway, we can go straight from the studio to the ground, where England's last wicket pair are probably going to last 1 ball. I think Jimmy Anderson's going to face first thing this morning, is he? Anyway, let's jingle up those people that are out there. What a great jingle. You'd just like to go to, is it St Peter's Square, and just blare that out?
I don't think you'd last very long.
No, probably not, yeah, fair point.
He is joined out the crease by this man.
Who's this one?
Jimmy, oh, Jimmy, oh, little Jimmy, let go.
Well, just for a moment I thought that Rabada was about to run in, but he was just doing a practice run. I thought he was going to get him out before the jingle had finished. 2 slips of gully, a man at forward short leg, square cover, extra cover. We'll jingle the bowler up if necessary. Here he comes round the wicket to the left-handed Anderson, who squeezes this one out, and despite the falling man at gully, it has got away down to third man. Now I think they'll just settle for the 1. They do. So Jimmy Anderson is off the mark, and I think that Jimmy Anderson can beat his Test best today, which is, remember, 81 at that awful pitch in Nottingham. Shall we jingle up the bowler?
We shall indeed.
He's a high roller, rock and roller, scariest, deadliest, killing this bowler. He can sink your oats like the Spanish Armada. No one faster, no one harder. What's his name? What's his name?
I think it's the perfect jingle opening, those 3. In comes Rabada, bowled to Pope. Pope drives, and he doesn't really need to hit it that hard, to be honest, because everyone is scattered, and they are quite happy to allow him the single. But he won't take it for the time being. He was talking last night about apparently taking advice from Johnny Bairstow. I'm not sure that he's the right man to take advice from at the moment.
If you take advice from anybody in this situation, it's Ben Stokes and how he was batting with Jack Leach.
Or Jack Leach. If you can get into Jack Leach's room without, him projectile vomiting over you. In comes Rabada, full, dug out by Pope. We'll come to your tweets before too long. That's if any of you can bear to get up if you're English supporters and listen to what's going on. Pope is on 56, Anderson is on 4. Don't you think that was a great jingle trip?
Yes, it was.
Trio.
The triptych of
Triptych
jingles.
is the word I'm looking
Yes.
for, isn't it? Yes, indeed. It's really got me going because I was a little bit sleepy this morning, and we're looking at Pope getting out late last night, only to be reprieved by a no ball. Rabada in full, and he whips this away through straightish mid-wicket. They might get a couple of runs here. In fact, they will. Around comes Pretorius to field all the way down at long on, and England have added 3 runs. 3 runs in the first 4 balls. Now, if that doesn't give you optimism, I don't know what will.
What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive.
Another no ball. They get 89 overs in yesterday. That's quite
They
good.
did. Well, that's what happens when you have a spinner who bowls 25
That
overs
would
in a
help.
day.
Yeah.
Tends to quicken things up a little bit. Rabada 2 for 65 in his
Much turn
19th over.
yesterday?
There was one that straightened on
1 in 25 overs.
No, it's curious that you should say that because I made the same point. 1 or 2 people got very excited when he turned one past the outside edge of Joe Denley, and I think it excited Joe Denley to the level that when he then tried to play a straight one, he was playing for turn and it didn't actually turn. Mind you, that was about 2 hours later. Rabada in to Pope, and Pope ducks under a bouncer. It has to get quite low, so it didn't actually bounce that high, and through it goes to De Kock. We shall welcome everyone on Crick Tracker. Welcome along again. If you're just here for sadistic purposes to see England get absolutely slaughtered, you've come to the right place.
Or indeed masochistic purposes.
Or indeed masochistic purposes if you are English. Indeed. You can watch our Facebook feed via Crick Tracker or via GorillaCricket.com itself. We're also on YouTube. We should also say that we had a winner in the GPL yesterday. 3 men now saving the single on the onside, and back goes Pope, and then ends up having to pull it as it's angled in towards him, and somehow he has managed to get that away behind square leg and hurry through for a single. So 5 runs off the first over. England are absolutely ripping this up. Anyone join us on Twitter?
Firstly, Crick Tracker Nabin Chetri says hi.
Hello.
Our Australian correspondents are talking about their country being on fire, understandably.
God, yes.
Cricketing View says the Aussie PM telling everybody they should be inspired by Marnus Labuschagne. So, as the words of Cricketing View, which I back up, saying so he's basically a complete idiot. It's the worst PM comment involving cricket since Theresa May got involved in Sandpaper Gate. Messi Jazz is sending us some videos. Unfortunately, I can't hear what the people are saying, but they do look understandably angry.
Yes.
Peter Watson, welcome to day 2 of Birds of South Africa.
Oh yes, we had a great time with the Ibis yesterday. We'll be looking out for the Ibis. He was around about just backward a point yesterday. He was just omnipresent. He was the omnipresent Ibis.
Was it just one Ibis?
We think it was just the same one. Yeah, yeah. It was very very.
Linux Lear, can the Burnley Lara pad his stats by being not out again, this time with runs in the bank? Have we been swearing this morning? I don't think I've heard us swearing once.
I may have let one go.
That's probably you then. Contraposto says, who is your arsehole commentator who can't make a sentence without using fuck, fucking or fucking hell?
Well, that's not me. That's not me. There's several of us. No, that's generally the bear. This is defended by Pope.
I wonder why you'd say that this morning. Also, I've now sworn 3 times, but that's really your fault, Contraposto.
Yeah, good point. We should jingle up the new bowler in a minute, but I'm wary of doing that because I feel like a wicket is
on its way.
It's on its way. Yes, absolutely. So we'll just hold off for the time being. If he can get through this one without too much worry, perhaps we shall be able to jingle up Mr. Nortje. So Pope settles down, waits for Nortje, goes wide on the crease, and he drives on the up. Doesn't really need to do that, does he? Because he's only going to get a single.
That's never going to go for 4, is it?
No, it's
with
not.
Everyone on the fence.
Yeah,
so
he might as well just defend those. We all know the game he's playing. Shall we jingle it?
You shall indeed.
If your number 1 project is to have yourself a bride, I think I've got your number 1 guy. He was bought by a franchise when he was buying meat. It's Henrik Nortje.
Amazing fact about him being bought by a franchise when he's buying meat. I need to look up that story. Nortje in bowls, and this is better from Pope. He does just defend it, although it runs all the way to the boundary where Rabada, I think it is, or maybe Philander, Can't see who it is under that hat with the shadows. Underarms it back to the bowler. Faf du Plessis is already practicing his...
It's like he's injured his shoulder doing a shadow batting.
Right. Oh, yesterday was quite funny. He spat out his chewing gum and it landed in his beard.
Good. Chewing gum is gross.
I hate chewing gum. I hate it so much that it's almost obligatory that anyone who is chewing gum will sit down next to me on the tube.
I don't understand how people can play sport while chewing gum,
No.
especially football. That
Yeah,
seems
it's
really
bizarre.
dangerous.
Oh, now is he trying to edge that one down to the third man region? I think he was just trying to nibble it away in one-day fashion, but failed to make contact. He's a little bit disappointed. Wanders down the wicket to have a look at it.
Messi Jez says, morning all, wonderful to have you here to distract from the sadness and anger over the disaster happening across this country. The first time I can recall the side in a strong position praying for rain.
Yes.
Ling Mao says Bess has apparently been to an England spin training camp in Sri Lanka, where he reportedly performed well. Anna Forsyth says, hello fellow misanthropes. This
Yes.
is the latest I've been awake since getting back to Canada. What's the
Oh, yes.
over-under on me falling asleep before England lose a wicket?
Yeah,
10 to 11 either way, I think.
Yeah, could be. Yes, Anna came in last week, I think it was.
Yes, I
Were
did
you
see
here?
a little bit. I wasn't here, but I did
Alright.
see a little bit on YouTube, yes.
Always great to make acquaintances of people that we know a name and then we can put a face to, because normally their avatars are very strange. Anyway, in comes Norkia again to bowl. He goes across. Does he get a top edge there? No, I thought he did. I thought he was definitely trying to hook that one. It was got quite high on him, and I thought for a moment that he may have edged that through to the keeper, but apparently not. And so Pope survives.
Evil Scooters, good morning. Ooh, you folks sound so lovely and clear today.
Do we? Oh yes, because we were very crackly yesterday. We've now got a new sound card.
Oh.
We're looking for a buyer for the old one. It's important.
$2.99 on eBay.
Well, no, we thought the main auction houses, cricket memorabilia of that quality, probably
yes.
we'll be looking for
Sotheby's
£5
should be
grand or
involved.
so
Oh,
for
yeah,
that. I think.
Lords, yes.
I can't remember what it was. Mog rather derisorily offered us. I think it was, I don't know, lots of really bad chicken. Norkia in, and he bowls him another bouncer, and he's not going to be able to put that away for a single, and so that keeps Pope. No, it doesn't.
It's
Well,
a
not well.
wide.
It does keep Pope at that end, but it's been given as a wide by umpire Paul Rifle. Not very wise to do that. I mean, Paul Rifle, he's not that long out of the game. Well, he is.
Nortje rather showed his hand there because he saved his short balls to the end of the over to try to keep Pope on strike, but then
Yeah.
Pope should have known they were coming.
Yes.
And I think he probably did. He tried to flick them over the keeper.
Well, he would need a step ladder, wouldn't he? Really? I mean, he's not the biggest man, Pope. He's
For
about
that one, yes.
he's about 5'9", I would say, something like that.
But does Nortje go for the single bluff and now bowl a Yorker?
This will be interesting to see. There is something Ian Bellish about Ollie Pope, isn't there? I think.
He's a big wuss.
Well, there is that, and he'll probably, like most England batsmen, get out when he's
I'll
got
have to take him
35.
on, give him boxing training like he did with
He's
Bell.
got a lovely extra cover drive. Not quite as sumptuous as Ian Bell.
No, I quite like with Bell. He seems a bit diffident. Let's punch him at the England training camp.
Norkia is in again. He does bowls another short one, and he smashes it straight, and he's going to get
Oh.
away with it. It's dropped over the head of the mid-off, who was up saving the single. That was Philander, and I imagine they will have just accepted the single rather than the two that they could have got. They have. Well done, Ollie Pope. England 268 for 9. They creep ever closer to 300.
Ling Mao is always one with the numbers. And of course, you can join Ling Mao in the what's it called again? That thing where you guess the score.
Oh, the GPL. Yes, I
Yes.
should mention. We had a winner, Des, who was so unlucky last week when he missed out on the last ball. Had profited by £103 yesterday. That said, he did have about 20 goes, which is so.
That's still a good
it's still a
return.
fantastic return, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yes, I'll tell you about the GPL.
Anyway, Ling Mao did say if Pope gets to 76 not out, his test average will rise to 40.
Ooh, that means we'll have two players who've got averages of 40 in this test team.
Luxury, would you be rooting him?
Indeed so.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Jolly Walla, morning fellow primates, any good fucking news out there today? Well, it's a nice day, here and in Cape Town.
Yes, quite clear here, isn't it? In comes Rabada, bowls to Pope. He's up there in the Yorker vicinity. They're going to take one, though. Presumably they think they can get two, but no, they can't. I'm not sure Pope worked that one out terribly well,
I'm
did
sure they were looking for two there, and maybe I hope they'd they'd talked about that in between the overs, that if he just did that T20 thing where you drop it in front of the deep fielder and try and scurry through for 2, but unfortunately there was never really any possibility of it, so
Didn't
they
look like it, did it?
misjudge that one.
Yeah, misjudged that horribly. Anyway, he moves to 61, England to 269 for 9. There's nobody in the England dressing room, as we focus on it, who looks very happy with life, funnily enough. It's all very pensive in there. From the batting coach, Graham Thorpe, who's trying to hide behind dark glasses. I'm not quite
Blame him.
I don't blame him.
Chopping block.
He was such a great batsman. Rabada into Anderson. He wants a quick single as he just drops this down towards extra cover, but Pretorius is too tight and prevents that. Sorry?
Having the debate yesterday can we now say that Jimmy is a better Test batsman than Stuart Broad?
Well, this is late in his career, is he going to shift up above Stuart Broad to number 10? Or is there a certain pride? Is there a certain pride in being a regular number 11? I don't know.
I suppose so.
No, that's just people who are terrible and then try to make a virtue out of it.
Yeah, probably. Rabada coming in, beautiful sunshine at Cape Town. He's in. He bowls to Jimmy Anderson, has a horrible little prod at that one outside off stump, but survives. 3 balls remaining for him to survive. Or what does he do now? Does he take a run now, or does he think? I should stay and see this over off.
There probably isn't one available anywhere obvious. They wouldn't take a quick single for it, I don't think. So, anyway, is there any body part or piece of equipment in here that doesn't now have its own Twitter account? Because
no, there isn't.
Guerilla Sound says, I'm just starting to get warmed up.
Yeah, well, exactly. Oh, that's a better ball, but well repelled by Anderson up towards extra cover. No, the SoundCloud, the sound card now has its own Twitter account. That's
probably all new SoundCloud cards have that built in now. This one says, I'm just starting to get warmed up. My new chips are giving me much greater clarity, though in some cases I feel a little abused by talk of fucking Muppets.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, that's bound to have an effect over 5 years. So we feel your pain. Rabada in, short ball, edge and caught. That's the simplest of catches to first slip. If you drop that, then you really shouldn't be playing Test cricket. Rabada has a 3rd wicket. Jimmy Anderson has gone. England have added 8 measly runs this morning. Ollie Pope remains 61 not out. Dean Elgar is racing off to get his pads on, and on his way is Jimmy. I think what was disappointing about that is he
didn't have to play it.
Well, he didn't, but the thing is, you kind of used to get from Jimmy.
Well, that's catching practice.
It really is. What you used to get from Jimmy was a man who'd try and get in line, and try and get behind it and be prepared to wear the odd bruise here and there. There was no interest in wearing any bruises whatsoever there, was it? The bat was miles from his body.
The more you see that, the worse it looked.
It was dreadful. It was dreadful. But the one good thing is for South Africa is that Van der Dussen has finally taken a slip catch after, well, I suppose because this time Quinton de Kock didn't dive in front of him, and that always helps if you're at first slip. Let's talk about the GPL, because we've got a bit of time now while we wait for South Africa to come out and score 550. The GPL is the game of skill. I don't know what else. Skill. What else is it?
Maybe a smidgen of luck.
Maybe a smidgen of luck. But lots and lots and lots of skill. It's definitely not gambling. Absolutely not, because you go to our website, guerillacricket.com. You go to competition and you guess. Or estimate. You don't guess, you estimate. You guesstimate how many runs will be scored in the day. And when you've done that, when you have done all the calculations, it'll probably take you, I don't know, an hour and 15 minutes.
You run it through your supercomputer.
Indeed. You ask an algorithm what you should do. Then you decide, then you put down £1 for each guess that you have. And that goes into a big pot. Well, I say a big pot. It's quite a small pot today because we had a winner of £103 yesterday. So go to guerillacricket.com. If you haven't already registered, make sure you register, and you can vote. You can guess as many times as you want, but each time you have to pay us £1. If you get it on the nose at the end of the day, you get everything that is in the prize fund. I will ask the bear what we have got in there to start with. It'll probably be around 30 quid, something like that. That's normally what we start with. Yeah, get on that. In the meantime, let's have some more tweets.
Yes.
£30 it is. There you go.
Talking of pounds, Linux Leah says Mog offered us £5,000 of chicken shit.
That's right. That's right.
Not sure what we would do with that, apart from give it a co-commentating gig. Dave Wood says, given Hendo comparing Pope to Bell, I fully expect a lofted drive to mid-off on 72. Well, we'll never know.
Nope, that'll be another day.
Spangly Sai, what ho chaps, am I alone in missing the old sound card? It no longer sounds like you're sat around the Guerilla campfire on the boundary.
That does give you a lovely glow to think that you could be sitting around a campfire on the boundary. That'd be the way to watch cricket, wouldn't it, really? Day-night cricket, anyway.
Health and safety might have a word.
Yeah, maybe not in Australia at the moment, the way things are
Well,
going.
it'll probably be on fire anyway. Anna Forsyth says, according to Jimmy, he's been working very hard on his batting on this tour. I mean, how much more can Jimmy learn about batting? He's 37, he's played 1 million games of cricket.
Well, he could learn to get in line.
Well, yes.
That would help.
He, as she says, I guess with everyone sick, he probably only had a bowling machine for company.
Probably.
Not that it mattered. I suspect half the bowling machines have gone down with viruses the way this tour is going.
I did hear that they don't seem to be using bowling machines quite as much. I don't know what they are using.
Presumably coaches with dog throwers mostly.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that the ball does match with a dog thrower. I mean, you can.
I can put you at the other end of my coach. When he's got his special ball, I'll tell you, it does loads.
Oh, I'm sure it can go quickly, but I'm not sure that you can make it swing.
Oh no, he makes it swing both ways.
Really?
Yeah. He has got a special ball he uses for that, which is obviously not legal, but it's still.
It's got big chunks missing.
He's done something to one
It's
side.
got some wings on it or something
He
like
tries
that.
to sneak it in on Saturdays, I think. PJ Mead, although Pope has elements of Bell, about him, it says about Tim, but I think he means about him, and autocorrect has been involved.
Yeah.
I hope he can circumvent Bell's habit of getting out between 50 and 100. He can work on it in the second innings. Well, he didn't do that today.
Well, it's not so much Bell getting out between 50 and 100. It was really Bell getting out between 30 and 50, I found.
No, at the end of his career, his average was, 43, 44? It's good.
Thing is, he's still in... Someone said the other day, he's still only 38. I mean, would be any worse than what's out there at the moment?
No, but, there is some thought to the future being given.
Well, I don't like the look of the future, I have to say. In
No,
many ways, not just about England's cricket team.
No. Ling Mao says Pope's test average is now 37.5. Chris TB, really keen to see Milan bat. Any predictions on his score? I reckon he'll be another South Africa opener to turn up on debut.
Oh, don't say
Is
that.
that too optimistic?
Well, he's a very interesting character, Peter Milan. I think he's 30 years old, but there are 3 Milans. There's what are they? Well, they're not exactly triplets, but they are.
There's Janawan Milan.
There's Janawan. Is it Janaman or Janawan?
I think, yes.
Who is the youngest, who looks like an incredible prospect, already averaging over 50 in first-class cricket. Played a couple of T20s, I think. And then there's Andre, who's a bit of an all-rounder. So a multi-talent. Well, I suppose they're the sort of South African. I would say South African equivalents because basically the Currans are South African, aren't they? But I was going to say the South African equivalents are the Currans. But
Are they actually brothers, the Milans?
Are they what? Sorry.
Are they brothers?
They are brothers. Yes.
Oh, they are.
They are brothers. They are brothers. I checked that out the other day. Yes, they are indeed. So, I mean, it would be great. Wouldn't it be amazing to see 3 Milans playing in the same team? That would be
Tom Curran's
remarkable.
tearing it up in the Big Bash.
Yeah, well, England players look quite good in that form of the game.
Well, no, I honestly, I think he's particularly doing well. He's been bowling super overs. He's been smashing 40 off 20 to change games. You've got James Vince out there just doing his usual 25 off 25.
Oh, right. Well, mind you, 25 off 14 is quite good in the Big Bash.
Right, but
isn't
25 off 23, not so much.
Not quite so
You
good.
can see Andrew Flintoff debasing himself on our TV.
Well,
now.
that's kind of sort of daily basis, isn't it?
What they do.
He was on Top Gear going up a mountain in Nepal the other day, I saw.
In a Jeep.
In a Jeep, yeah.
Yeah, they do that now.
Yeah.
I don't think that really counts.
Yeah, well, they've tried almost everything to kill him off. They put him out. I remember a few years ago they put him out in the sort of wilds of Kenya, and made him try and survive overnight with sort of man-eating lions wandering around. And he did survive. He's still going
For a whole night.
For a whole night, yes,
Hiding
indeed.
up a tree. Simon Gear says if Dharmasena isn't going to call no balls, then the captain needs to assign the mid-off to watch his bowler's front foot.
Good point.
And embarrass the umpire into doing his job. That sounds like what I had to do in the 4th team.
Well, actually,
when I was captain, and the annoying person in my team would say, "Oh, keep an eye on the umpire. He's giving no balls that aren't." And I'm going, "Off, mate. I'm just trying to play him."
Well, actually, I mean, I used to find that very irritating. If I was the non-striker, and I could see no balls being bowled and umpires not giving it used to infuriate me because I used to think, well, I could get one of those and I could be out.
Absolutely.
And it's
well, but it does depend. I always think you're playing club cricket. If you've got players umpiring, just forget about it.
Well, yeah, that's slightly different.
But if you've got proper
yeah.
umpires who are actually being paid, then yes, they should be doing their job. Kate Holdsworth, Dutch Bird Kate. Good morning from the member stand at Newlands.
Oh,
Spent the
how lovely
morning
for
with
you.
Fred Titmus yesterday.
Oh, I can. What's the word I'm looking for? Condolences. That's it.
Catching up on all things Guerilla. Today, expect South Africa to be 327 for 1 at the close. Which has so a strong Guerilla contingent out there.
Well,
in Cape
there's
Town. Now, I know there's a lot of people in the crowd dressed up as octopuses, so that's probably Fred Titmus, yeah.
Yeah. Why are they dressed as octopi?
I don't know. Octopi, thank you.
Which
I
is
don't
very
know,
tasty
just-
octopi, by the way.
Oh no, I never even when I was eating fish,
No,
I
I'm
never
only
liked
joking.
the squid. Yeah,
Are you vegan? Are you veganuary or whatever they're calling it this month?
I'm vegan.
Veganuary.
I'm vegan yearly.
You're vegan yearly, aren't you? Veganually, basically.
Yeah, I mean, as Fred did say, it's not a great kind of soundbite, but it is better than February dairy.
Oh God, it is better than that. That is pretty terrible.
And that
isn't
was
it?
such a pathetic sort of contrived response.
And what about this man who is now an ethical vegan, and I can no longer take the piss out of you, can I, from here this seat, and say you terrible vegan you? I mean, I think it's a great
Well,
thing to be a
I think
vegan.
you can still do that. Most people
No,
do.
but then you'll probably go racing to a lawyer and
Oh,
play.
probably. I would give a quick recommend to Ben Elton's Identity Crisis. Talks a great deal about social media.
Oh, is that's his new book, isn't it?
It's not that new, actually.
It's been around for a bit,
It's
has
been
it?
around for a little bit.
Okay. I might
It's
look
very
at that.
good, very funny.
Oh, good.
I always enjoy Ben Elton's books. Anyway, while we're on culture, I saw Rise of Skywalker yesterday. It was a pile of absolute pants.
Are you a Star Wars fan?
I'm not, but I saw it and was pleasantly surprised.
Oh, really?
It was better than I thought it would be.
I-
I'm not
I-
predisposed to it. I was
I
quite
think,
impressed.
yeah. Well, me neither. I've only ever seen one Star Wars film, and I think
Really?
that was
Which
the
one?
Can you name them?
If it was The Empire Strikes Back, that's probably the best one.
It was the second or third?
Yeah, The Empire Strikes Back.
I think it was The Empire Strikes
Was it Muppets in Space?
I haven't a clue.
Well, if it was Muppets in Space, it would have been Return of the Jedi, and you remember it.
Muppets in space. Were
Oh,
they
yeah.
fucking Muppets in space?
Sorry?
Fucking Muppets
yeah,
in
they
space.
that's yeah, exactly. They were really.
Okay. Anyway, we can stop with wibbling away and talking absolute nonsense because Peter Milan is coming to the wicket. 149 matches. Oh my goodness, 30. I mean, hang on. We've got to talk about this. We've got to talk about Peter. 32 hundreds, 42 50s. Let's jingle him up.
This land is your land. This land is my land. From the under 910s, Northerns and Titans.
I don't think he's going to be facing the first ball, but we will talk about him in a minute because I think it's instructive actually, and maybe says something about the respective strengths of these sides. Jimmy Anderson has the ball in his hand, and he's going to, after his wonderful display with the bat, he's going to bowl. I hear nothing.
Jimmy, 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 oh, Jimmy, Jimmy, oh, little Jimmy, will let go.
McLeod in the skies, he bowls to Dean Elgar, who we shall also jingle up. 3 slips and a gully, he's in bowls, he got him first ball at Pretoria, but he doesn't as he props forward and defends towards mid-off. This is Dean Elgar. Kind of suggests something a little bit more magisterial than Dean Elgar, the batsman.
See what variations go today. Well,
And
that's his
it- well-
bowling, really.
Yes, here he is again. Anderson in bowls, and he's a little bit squared up as he plays that one.
He was on the previous one, actually. He does that a little bit. His defensive shots, he does seem to slice across the ball a little bit, and it skews out to point, but he seems to be able
Yes.
to work with it.
Yes, he's played that reasonably well. But, a man with plenty of experience under his belt. What I was going to say about Peter Milan is that he's got 32 first-class centuries. Zach Crawley, opening yesterday for England, has 3.
I'll ask you a question after this ball.
Forward comes Elgar, plays it well into a gap on the offside. looked like Jack Leach running after that, but it couldn't possibly be. It's actually
24.
Joe Denley.
Yeah.
The first run of the South African reply.
Yeah, speaking of Joe Denley, this is England's least convincing top three since when?
Ever.
It might be.
I saw people saying, it was worse in the 90s, and granted that I was out.
Well, Atherton would have been there.
Well, exactly. Granted that I was out of the country between, the summers of 98 and 99, and didn't. Apart from
That
the World
was the
Cup.
absolute nadir in Test terms.
Well, I know
wasn't
that's
it?
when we lost at home to New Zealand, and everyone was
Bottom
going,
of the
"Oh
world."
my God,
Yeah.
we're terrible." But when I look at that team, and I look at those teams, I don't
Still
think
had
they're
Atherton and Stewart.
not
at
as
the top.
flaky as this team, for goodness sake. Anderson then into Milan, his first ball in Test cricket, which he defends with the full face of the bat. Back to the bowler, and there is no run. But when you've got that weight of runs, you've got a first-class highest of 211 not out. Coming into Test cricket at the age of 30, you kind of know your game, don't you?
Well, this is the interesting thing. South Africa have no qualms about giving a 30-year-old his debut. It's not something we do. I know, did with Denley.
Yeah.
Denley had played one game.
Well, no, he'd played some
handful of
one-day
ODIs.
cricket. Yeah.
So, in fact, yeah, they did give Denley a debut in his 30s.
Yes, that's
hasn't
true.
worked out particularly well.
It's worked all right for Australia when they've done it. Anderson
Yes.
in, left alone outside the off stump.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Maybe England just don't have the individuals with that weight. I mean, who's an uncapped 30-something in county cricket who scored a zillion runs?
James Hildreth.
Possibly.
That's
yeah.
possibly the only one. Can you
Darryl
think of any?
Mitchell.
Darryl Mitchell, yes, Worcestershire. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of county cricket over the last 10 years. I mean, Darryl Mitchell, you look at his numbers and he's done really well. But I haven't seen enough of him in the flesh to actually make a judgment on which would satisfy me. A lovely shot by Milan
shot.
on the back foot. He crunches that away through cover point. Wonderful start to his Test career. He goes to 4 not out. South Africa 5 without loss. But I mean, it's only going to get worse for England, isn't it? Because we're going to have almost no county cricket in the middle of the summer, and it's going to be
Which has been the case for a couple of years.
well,
anyway.
kind of, yes, but it's kind of getting worse. You've got, even when you've got the dreaded 100 going,
Oh,
the
don't
only other
mention the H word.
the only other cricket you've got behind that is the rather downgraded one-day cup, isn't it?
Well,
So-
it's a question of how much faith the England international sort of management or whatever you want to call them actually have in county cricket. They seem to have more faith in the Lions setup, and
yeah, I'm not with that, to be
rightly or
honest.
wrongly.
Yeah.
Anna Forsyth says, I'm much more eager to see this Milan in whites than the English one, well, who isn't English either.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, you know that Tony's a big fan of Dawid Milan, and I was going to say to him, at least, there's 3 Milans out there. Unfortunately, none of them are Dawid. From your point of view, here comes Stuart Broad to open for England, and it's a very full ball, driver ball, but really just punched up to mid-off by Elgar. This is Stuart Broad's jingle.
What would make Broad walk?
If his stumps were knocked
What
down,
would make Broad walk?
caught 5 feet off the
What
ground,
would make Broad walk?
if he trod on his
What would
stumps,
make Broad walk?
if God was one of the
What
arms,
would make Broad walk?
Broad walk.
We're looking at the first-class record of Peter Milan. I mean, it is hard to make sense of the South African first-class system, as this is beautifully driven.
shot.
He didn't really
Yeah.
actually have to go through with a shot. He just met it with good timing, and that runs straight through mid-off for one of these. Yes, they have sometimes a 4-day. I think in the same season they have a 4-day competition and a 3-day competition, which confuses the issue somewhat. I'm not quite sure how many years that has been for. We used to have years ago the Currie Cup, didn't we, in South Africa? Was the main first-class tournament. But even so, even if you say that a lot of those matches might have only been 3 days, as Broad is in order, that came back off the pitch. It started perhaps just a little wide, was left alone by Elgar, but threatened the off stump a little bit. Even if you allow for that, he will have batted, well, long innings quite often, won't he? I think we can safely say.
Yes.
Whereas the likes of Crawley, probably haven't played that many really long innings. They'll have played a couple, obviously. They wouldn't have got to where they are.
How many 4-day games does the Lions actually play in a year? 4 or 5 days?
Oh, not enough. This one again comes back into.
That's not really an answer though.
This is defended to mid-wicket. It was all I could do as the ball was being bowled, but I don't know is the answer. I mean, they go on various tours. I mean,
You don't know, but it's not enough.
It's not enough. Well, you don't really see much about it, do you? I mean, I think they tend to mix up 1-day and 4-day cricket. They're supposed to be in Australia, aren't they?
Yeah.
Have they actually gone there?
Well,
I don't know.
They're going.
They're going.
And
And in fact,
two openers in the squad are currently the 2 openers in this Test match.
that's right. They're going to join that, which is interesting. Now, this one really comes back. Not only does it come back and fool Elgar going between bat and pad, I think it was, it completely foxes Jos Buttler, who really is not doing his Test chances a lot of good in this match. It's gone away for 4 byes, I'm afraid to say.
Jos Buttler should be banned from all sport.
Discuss.
For doing an interview in which he was asked what were his favourite football team, and he started running off a list. He said Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester City, and Ian Ward stopped him and basically said, that's not how football works.
No.
Mate. And Jos Buttler just went, "Ugh," you know, in that chumbly way he does.
He's one of those people who say, well, I like football.
That's what he said.
Don't you dare. Beautiful shot from Elgar. It's right up there in the slot. He opens the face, plays it square with, again, fine timing. And before you know it, South Africa are 17 for no wicket.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, so I would recommend a 9-month ban for Jos Buttler, just
Yeah.
so he can keep up.
Well,
with
at least.
keep up with Australia
At least.
as moral guardians of the game. Anna Forsyth says in junior hockey, the backup goalie tracks game stats with pen and paper. Suggest we take Simon Gear's idea about assigning someone to check no balls to Zach Crawley so he can do something useful. Dr. Leonie Hicks says, morning Hendo's desperate optimism is amazing to behold.
It's almost gone. It only lasted about
30 seconds.
Well, yeah, I think the match. I think before the start it had gone. I was just trying to get you lot to come and listen to us. I'm absolutely in the pit of despond. In comes Anderson. Oh, that came back a long way as it was left. Are we going to say charitably on length by Milan? That Milan has 4, Elgar has 9.
Linux Lear says, I want there to be a 4th umpire checking for no balls in real time, and I want a strobing light behind the bowler's arm and a blaring klaxon to alert the batsman to every no ball so he can react accordingly. I think you should be on the 100 planning committee.
Yeah, actually, absolutely. You've come up with 3 better ideas in about 10 seconds than the 100 committee have done in 18 months.
She says, crazy stat, Jimmy has more Test runs than the current English top 3 combined. Well, I'm sure he does.
Defended to mid-wicket by Milan. That's frightening, isn't it? Very, very frightening.
Dave Wood says, here's a unique idea. Play county games Wednesday to Saturday, 1-dayers on Sunday, 2 to 3 week T20 comp during the school holidays, and scrap the 100. Yeah, but players do hate switching from format to format.
But they've been doing it, and that's what they will be doing. I mean, there is still...
No, but not on a daily basis,
Well,
though.
they do, but they always have done. I mean, if you go back to...
No, it's much better in blocks now.
Well, you say that. I'll come back to that. Hang on. As Anderson is into Milan. Milan leaves. The ball just nibbling back towards his off stump. I mean, if you go back to when I was a kid, you would have a county game going on.
Cricket has changed a bit since
Well,
then.
no, fair point. But, you'd start, what day was it? Thursday, Friday?
Oh, come on. When it was I must admit, when we were, it was an absolute mess. There was 3 days. They would go up off the other end of the country on the Sunday in the middle of a 3-day game.
That's my point. Yes, it's true. They would drive up to Derbyshire from Kent just for John Player League, outside the off stump, left alone, and through to Buttler. But was that bad? Did that make us any worse?
Yes, that was bad, because all the fast bowlers were A, bowling a zillion overs, and B, spending the most of the rest of the time perched in the back seats of someone's Mini.
Yeah, but bizarrely, I think being perched in the back seat of a Mini is quite good for you, because I'm sure they weren't injured as often as they are these days.
Nah, no, it might be rose-tinted injury
They
spectacles.
may no longer be able to walk, having retired. But I mean, I think that's a price worth paying, to be honest.
It's a price worth someone else paying.
Again, outside the stump, hint at movement back Already Jimmy looks frustrated, thinking, oh, there's absolutely nothing out here for me. The score remains 17 for no wicket. So
Anna Forsyth says, I won't bite on the talk of barring Butler, because, well, you shouldn't do, because I was fairly obviously joking. Now, here's an important question. What do we call this year? Is it 2020 or is it 2020?
Well, I mean, with 2020, it says we're going to have the 2020 and 2020. It
Well,
gets confusing,
quite rightly,
doesn't it?
Quite rightly.
We have to say the T20 in 2020, and then that becomes a bit of a tongue twister. Forward comes Milan to a ball again just outside the off stump, a little bit fuller this time, and it's played up to mid off. There is no run.
But
Maiden
even outside of cricket, forgetting about cricket, if we can, you know, what are people calling this year? Has there been an official decision?
Over to you, Tim.
I would call it 2020.
2020, 2020, 2020.
So yeah, we'd start. I mean, it makes more sense. We never said 1,975.
No, we didn't, did we? That's a very good point. Yeah, so it must be 2020, mustn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
as Anna says, 2020 has been sent to test me, and I will overcome. She doesn't say the year or the cricket format, probably both.
I was seeing someone saying on Facebook yesterday, you shouldn't sign any checks or anything
Oh,
like
yes.
that with just the 20.
The 20, because people can add a
at the end of
19
it.
or anything
Yeah.
they want. Yeah,
Indeed,
yeah.
indeed.
Who
Unfortunately,
uses a cheque these days, though?
well, yeah. And the fact of the matter is that I've got no money to steal, so there's no point. Now England have already gone to 2 slips and a gully and a ring of 3 on the offside. The defensive strategy is underway as this is left alone outside the off stump as Broad starts a new over.
The interesting to see how Ben Stokes is used.
Yes,
beforehand
yes.
As the one of the quartet
One of the
who has
four,
the
yes.
little bit extra pace.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to have to use him a lot more than they did.
He
It
was very sparingly used in
Yeah.
that previous test. Maybe he wasn't 100% fit to bowl.
Well, there's been these sort of fitness things hanging over him for a while, haven't there, about his bowling.
Yeah, he insisted he was all right this morning.
Well, he's always insisting he's all right, and then he falls apart.
It's half the problem.
Outside the off stump, rather loopy bounce through to Butler.
We had a lively discussion with David Brooke about this last time I was in. When players are 80 to 85% fit, should they insist they're fine out of a sort of gung-ho, wanting to play, or should they be honest and say, look, I'm not 100%, maybe you should go with this other guy who is?
Well, I don't remember ever being 100% fit.
Well, there's that as well.
Certainly only about 13%
and I'm sure
fit
people playing the
today.
amount of cricket they are these days.
Broad in bowls, mistimed as he rather reaches for that. Elgar pushes back to Broad at 140 k's. That's quite quick for Broad, isn't it? 87 miles an hour, a little bit swifter than his average delivery these days. England all out this morning for 269. If you're just joining us, they added 8 to their overnight score before Jimmy Anderson gave catching practice to first slip off Rabada, who picked up a second wicket, was it, I think?
They all got 2 wickets in the
2
end,
or 3,
didn't
wasn't it? Broad in again, bowls, and Elgar comes down on that late, almost across himself, pushing up to mid-on.
Only 2 slips? Is that
Well, that's what I'm
saying
just
something
saying.
about their view of the pitch?
Well, I think so, yeah. I mean, he's into his second over and they've taken out a slip, put him into extra cover. The defensive strategy...
Well, if one goes
already.
through that 3rd slip, everyone will point fingers, as they do.
Well, they will. I mean, he probably wasn't very happy about being driven the first couple of times in his
don't
first
bowl a
over.
half volley then.
Well, this is the point, and he's going to say, well, it was all the gap's fault in extra cover. Defended, that's a better straighter ball from Broad, better length as well.
Should we rotate or something?
We should be
or
rotating
get the
shortly.
bear in after this?
I'm hoping that Jason has arrived as well, so there could be a 2-man change. Tim, you've done a bit of ball by ball, haven't you?
Yes.
Yes, you'd like to come and do the ball by ball?
Yeah.
That is Jason, and I'm hoping the bear will be coming in as well. Tim will be coming in to do ball by ball. Jason on tweets and the bear, because he loves it on the jingles. Because basically, he's illiterate. So 17 for no wicket. In comes Broad again. Bowls. Oh, another horrible shot from Elgar, whose bottom hand comes off the bat. I think he's injured himself a little bit there. Maybe he's taking something on the inside of the thigh. That is the end of the over, I think. And South Africa are 17 for no wicket. We will have a jingle telling you how you can help out the show under marketing. If just go to marketing, just pick a tune, and we'll be with you again shortly.
We need your
Alternative cricket commentary, bringing you laughs, bringing you jingles,
bringing you joy. We are Gorillas. We need your Patreon.com/Guerilla Cricket.
Well, good morning. We have two new friends with us. We have Jason on my left on your tweets.
Hello.
And the Bear on jingles as Dean Elgar just drops one down to deep backwards square. Peter Milan drops one down to deep backwards square for a single. How are we this morning?
I'm okay. I'm a bit disappointed with England, as obviously always. It's just terrible.
Yeah, but are you really disappointed that we didn't go on to this morning, or are you more disappointed with yesterday?
Well, I'm disappointed with yesterday. It was just shit.
Well, every time we seem to be gaining a hold in the game, we get
get
picked
out.
back.
No, someone gives their wicket away.
Indeed.
Doesn't look to be too many demons in his wicket, does it?
No.
You don't know. He can get on a roll, get a couple of wickets, put a bit of pressure on them, but they got to get some early wickets.
Yeah,
and, they leaked 17 runs in the first 2 overs. So
yes, they have. As Anderson comes in to Elgar, and that's dropped into the leg side, and there is no run.
Although, to be fair, that was mainly Broad's first over, which was a bit floaty, and he was quite a lot better in the second over.
yeah, plus there were 4 byes, which of course Butler should have stopped.
He should, as Hendo said, he's not doing himself any particular favours in this test, although I would stop short of Andy's somewhat harsh suggestion to ban him given his footballing opinions, which were
Andy's 4-day test
dreadful.
opinion as well.
Yes, indeed. As Anderson in again to Elgar, and that comes off the splice of the bat down to Gully, and there is no run.
I mean, I can't see the justification for it apart from a financial one.
Yes,
because they can't get 90 overs in 6.5 hours at the moment, and they're going to get 98 overs in how many hours
yes,
they're going
indeed.
to suggest.
Well, that's true. I mean,
mean,
when we did have the 4-day test against Ireland, I mean, I know it was curtailed than any other 4-day test I've seen. They've not managed to get. They've got about 92 overs in a day in the extra half hour. So
they did. As Jimmy is in again to Dean Elgar, and that's tucked away to mid wicket, and there is no run. Although they got 89 in yesterday, but that was with a hefty chunk from the spinner. So
From
and it was with the extra half hour, and
it
they
was.
did have, yeah, exactly. There was a hefty chunk from the spinner, but that's fine. I just keep it at 5 days. I mean, you understand. The problem is, I guess, so many tests finish within 5 days that you're paying that 5 days, and you've got to pay money back, and there's probably insurance involved. I can understand there's the extra cost, but it's either the sport it is or it isn't.
It is, as Anderson is in again. That one's just dropped to square, and there is no run.
I think we'll find if it goes to 4 days, we'll find him finishing in 3.
Yes.
Well, this game is not going to go to 5 days, is it?
No, it's going to go. It's going to finish in 4, I think.
Yeah, probably 3.7 or something. I mean, you imagine if South Africa get a hefty
300,
lead.
200 odd by the end of today.
Yeah, they get 300 today. They end up with 400, and we trail by 130. We'll probably have a lead of about 80, and we'll wipe them off in no time at all.
As Elgar managed to squeeze one between Gully and Point. Is that going to get to the boundary? Not quite. It's thrown back by, it looks like, Joe Denley, and they will come back for 2.
We should say a big thank you to Hattie Atkinson, who got in touch with us this morning on Facebook and said, how can I help you out? How can I donate to you? And we got in touch with her and we let her know, and she's already donated via PayPal. And all the rest of you can do that. PayPal, Guerilla, or Patreon. If you go to our homepage, there's a support World Global Cricket or something, Guerilla Cricket. Click on that link, and it's got all the ways you can help us out, buying T-shirts, all that kind of stuff. There's a page with all those things on it. And if you fancy going there and helping us out, that'd be lovely.
Remind me, Bear, who was the benefactor of our new improved sound card yesterday?
Us. Everybody. What do you mean, a benefactor?
I thought somebody
No,
donated for it.
Some people donated. There were quite a few people donated a little small amount. But if you want to carry on donating towards that, it was 150 quid. That'd be cool.
Well, was it Mog who offered $5,000 worth of?
Well, we were trying to auction off the old sound card as memorabilia, cricket memorabilia.
We did do a back of the fag packet calculation on how many words had been spoken through it in its existence.
Indeed.
As Milan just drops one into the leg side, and there is no run.
It was 200 million, wasn't it, or something? Around about?
Nearly 300 million, 290 million almost.
There you go.
And that was the original sound card.
There's the original sound card, yeah.
How many years will that have done?
5.5?
5.5, yeah.
Gosh, quite some run. Although, as has already been mentioned this morning, we are sounding nice and clear and not particularly bonfire crackly.
Yes.
Which is a bonus.
So it's always money well spent when you spend it on Guerilla Cricket.
It is indeed. As Broad comes in and gets one to nibble away from Milan's outside edge. Doesn't quite find it, and there is no run.
Let's go back to the day job. Dave Wood saying I'm calling it the end of days instead of the usual we're doomed.
That was
PJ Mead says, if I could have played sport at 85% fit past 35, I'd have been very happy. I think anyone playing hard and often is going to be carrying a succession of injuries.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? Yeah.
Just seeing the replays of that Broad delivery, that's lovely, lovely bit of movement away as he's in again, and it's a little bit less movement this time. Milan just managed to run it down to slip, and there is no run.
And Anna Forsyth corrects me. She said, if the back's 4-day test talk came from the interview, I think it did. He actually said he prefers 5-day tests, but test cricket must be protected at all costs, and if that means change, so be it. Found it bizarre to be summed up in the headline it was.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I heard he said as well. Why? What was the headline? Joss Butler says 4-day test should be the norm or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That's a bit of clickbait sub-editing, I think.
Yeah.
Indeed.
What a right-wing press.
Broad is into Milan, who leaves this one well alone and goes through to Butler.
Mark Henby, where was Hendo on the day he did the interview?
Oh dear, dear.
Would he have been at Murdoch Central?
Gosh.
Probably.
As we're just seeing Milan's, I know we discussed this earlier, Milan's first class average of 45, what England would give for an opening batsman on debut that averaged 45 in first class cricket.
Well, you were talking earlier about a person who has sort of age 30 who hasn't been considered for selection, and I've got one after this ball.
Broad is in, and Milan leaves this one well alone, goes through to Butler.
A man whose face just doesn't seem to fit is Sam Northeast.
Yes, well, he has been
and
touted.
Also James Hildreth, which is the other one I'm thinking of, but he's well past 30 now.
He is. Well, Northeast has been touted by some as a potential replacement for Mr. Burns, who has departed the tour thanks to a stupid football injury.
Will they draft someone in, or will they just stick with Zach Crawley?
I think they may well draft in.
But isn't that the Keaton Jennings fallacy?
Oh gosh!
God, don't go back to Keaton fucking Jennings, Jesus.
As Milan leaves another one from Broad well alone, and that goes through to Butler, and there is no run.
In that you've invested some time and effort in him, so you must keep him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the stat from Jennings I saw yesterday that he averages like 16 outside of Asia in Test cricket, which is.
You think they'll take him to Sri Lanka?
Again,
he did all right in Sri Lanka last
time.
He
is a very, very, very good player of spin.
He's good on the sweep, wasn't he? And that's how he made all his runs out there. Just get the sweep and everything.
But no, there was an interesting article on Wisdom yesterday of who it might be. Northeast mentioned amongst, I think, Milan, Vince, Gary Balance was given a mention. I wouldn't be averse to seeing Gary Balance have another crack, given I don't think.
Well, he's not changed his technique though, has he?
No.
As far as I can, I mean, it is difficult because Gary Balance every year gets quite near the top of the county averages.
Yes.
And quite often you see him averaging sort of 70 over a county season. You think, well, he's got to have a chance, but then comes into Test cricket and gets found out. So.
Anderson is in again, but Algar just managed to drop that one back up the pitch, and there is no run. Although Sam Northeast is one of those. He's averaged I think 50 plus for the last couple of seasons. But whenever an opportunity has arisen, he has been in the middle of a pretty dire spell of form. So this could potentially be his opening.
Yes, he's improving his chances by not being in the side.
Yes, indeed.
Abijato Sensama says, a top order batsman named Milan playing the test involving England almost feels familiar. There's another name that could have been selected, which is David Milan.
It could, as Algar leaves one well alone from Anderson that goes through to Butler. I was never quite convinced by Milan. I don't think he's...
I think he might have been good on this tour because of the hard pitches.
Yeah.
Because he did well in Australia on hard pitches.
He did.
But
never quite.
It's a bit of horses for courses selection.
It is, as Jimmy is in again to Eugene Elgar, who drops this one down to point, looks for a single, it's not there, and there is no run.
Well, that was kind of Ed Smith's theory, wasn't it? I mean, he said that's what he was going to do when he came in. And, we've got to think more about horses for courses or words along those lines.
Yes.
When it came to playing in different parts of the world, which makes you wonder what the tour selection will be to Sri Lanka. I presume they'll go back to 3 spinners like I did last time. They might try and get.
Does Folks come in for that sort of thing?
Well, I'd imagine they go back to Folks because they don't need the pace bowling, do they? So
they've got previous on there as well.
Yes, as Elgar drops one back up the pitch to Jimmy. And there is no run. That South Africa now 20 without loss.
I imagine they might try and go back to Rashid, although he's getting older and his shoulder problems are accumulating.
Does Parkinson get a proper stab in Sri Lanka, do you think?
Well, possibly. I quite liked him when I saw him in a T20. I liked the fact that he gave it some air, but in a Test match, I don't know how.
But I
it would
think
work
he's
out.
said already that he's been told to bowl faster.
So Anderson in again to Elgar, who tucks this one away into the leg side, and he will probably pick up 2. He will indeed. Gormy's on to 22 without loss.
Mia Katie says to us, but wouldn't a lot of games that finish in 4 days be played differently if there wasn't the possibility of a 5th? The 4th innings team needs to survive to just the end of the day, so bat slowly for a draw.
Yeah, one presumes there would be some more draws. I mean, you think all the Ashes tests this year went to a 5th day, didn't they? I don't think any of them finished inside 5 days.
Apparently we have another person.
Yes, we have a guest. So someone will go in and let them in as Jimmy... Oh, he gets an edge!
Oh, fucking hell!
And as you will tell by the Bears' reaction, falls. I think it might have fallen just short.
I don't think it did,
Oh, shall I see the replay?
You say but that was an edge? I'm not sure it was. I think that was sort of...
But if it was on the pad, why wasn't
it on the pad?
It was back to Bushell. Wait for the replay. Here it comes. That was...
No, it wasn't.
No, it fell just short. And I think, was it bat onto pad? Just have a look.
It was definitely an edge.
Yeah.
And it did fall just short. Oh, fuck it.
So...
And you might be able to tell I got some money on the full reverse wicket, but under 40, I think I got under 45 and a half or 40, so I've got a little way to go. But
for sure, the bookies' money is safe for now. Well, encouraging signs for England, who are striving for this first wicket as Broad comes in at the start of a new over.
That's out.
That is out as Milan, almost Anderson-esque, sort of wafts at one way away from his stumps and gives catching practice to Joe Root at second slip. And South Africa are 26 for 1.
Excellent.
There was nothing acting strange. I was gonna go out strange.
That's moved quite a way off the pitch.
It has. It's weird, isn't it? The first couple of overs, the ball didn't seem to be doing a lot, and as it's got into its sort of 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th over, it's starting to do a little bit more. Maybe the lacquer needs to come off.
I mean, that just made a poor shot selection look worse.
Yes, it did.
As he chased it with his hand.
Yes, it was
much like England did yesterday. Maybe, well, the other thing you have to say is looking at this South African top order, first class averages aside, Test averages, they ain't that much better than ours. Let's be honest.
No.
There's a lot of inexperience in there too. So I mean, the old adage, you can't make up your mind until both sides are battered. I think we need to get. I think the stalwarts in their side are going to be Elgar, although apparently, whenever I've seen Elgar, he's been tricky to get out.
He wasn't in great form in England last year.
Yeah, and he hasn't been in great form recently. Quinton de Kock is obviously trouble, and Faf du Plessis is the heart of the side. If you can get those three out.
But he doesn't exactly score quickly, Faf.
No.
He hangs around, but he's not an explosive batsman. He's an accumulator.
Denley.
Yes.
Well, the new man in is this guy.
Describes batting like war. Hours of boredom, standing in a field. Then a few seconds of excruciating existential terror as people hurl things at you with deadly force.
indeed. Jason, any tweets?
Actually, I'm going to go through Quick Tracker because we've got a few people on there. Venki Venkat is there. Ahmed Mushtaba says hi. Imran Khan says hello. And Animesh Khan says hello.
Oh, hello to you all.
And Evil Scooters, going back to the selection question, says, why are we dropping Zach Crawley after one innings as opener? Do we really want to go back to the 90s? And also Anna Forsyth chiming in on that opener question again says, this Genesis South Africa talk reminds me of when we all thought Roy could open. Put these takes back in the oven, they are still frozen in the middle.
Oh gosh. I'm willing to give Crawley a chance. I think
he's in the squad. You've got to give him a chance, haven't you? I mean,
I think it shows where our Test match batting is when the two specialist openers in the Lions squad for the tour to Australia are opening in this Test match, as Broad comes in to Hamza, who drops that one back up the pitch, and there is no run. South Africa 26 for 1. Yes, it is of somewhat concern how fragile we seem to. Our reserves of opening batting seems to be. So we just see the replay of that wicket, and Root managed to take the catch, but knocks him backwards. It went some off the edge, as Jason was saying, moved quite away off the pitch and made a very poor shot look even worse, as Broad is in again to Hamza, who runs this one up to mid-on, and there is no run.
It's amazing, isn't it? Broad went for 8 runs in his first over. He's bowled 2 maidens and got a wicket after that. It's not bad. They got 17 off the first 2 overs, now 26 for 1. So they've staunched the runs.
They have.
You're a lot happier now that
I am a lot happier.
Now that your money is saved.
Well, my money's saved, and I'm going to go again. But I mean, it's always annoying when a team gets off to a flyer like that. You've really got to drag them back.
Yes.
And I think they're also
bowlers are allowed to have one bad over when they're getting their radar.
They are, and they're getting a little bit of nibble. Broad and Anderson, as Broad is in again, gets one off the splice of Hamza's bat, runs down to Gully, and there is no run.
I kind of also like it, the fact that although Broad likes to bowl around the wicket to the lefties, I think Anderson's attack from over the wicket is probably looking more dangerous. It has to be said.
Certainly to Elgar.
Yes. That's what I mean, to the lefty.
Ling Mao, talking about selections for Sri Lanka, says they should take Liam Livingstone to Sri Lanka with Vokes, Jennings, Bess, Leach and Moeen. Bess, Leach and Moeen is an interesting spinning attack.
It is. As Hamza blocks a fullish one from Broad back at the pitch. And there is no run. Although with my proudly sporting Lancashire hoodie, I will never forgive.
You want Parky?
I do, but I will never forgive Liam Livingstone's bowling after the absolute filth he served up in the Blast quarter-final at Durham last year in the 19th over.
And his match-losing T20 debut for England as well.
Yes, quite. Now I have somewhat gone off Mr. Livingstone. As Broad is in. Gets one to nibble away from Hamza, who somewhat dangles his bat. But it goes through to Butler safely, and there is no run.
I mean, he's another top order, predominantly batsman who can bowl licorice all sorts.
Yes, I've never heard. We had a sort of a run of
much like Joe Denley.
Yes, he was one of those that would bowl the first over of a T20 and nothing else for a couple of years. And I never quite got the hype about Livingston's bowling. I mean, when
he had a very obvious change of action for his for the leggy.
Yes, I mean I suppose it's the days when, still is, Old Trafford can rag square at random points, and Lancs would just pack the bowling line up with as many part-time spinners as we could.
An interesting question about that. Does it still rag square now they've turned the pitch through 90 degrees?
I mean, yes. It's still, we've regularly had Parky and Livingston bowling in tandem. Stephen Croft has been nibbling away with his offies for the last couple of years as well. He's sort of changed from a sort of rank medium to off spin. As the first change has come on, and it is this young man.
Is he a batter or bowler? Sam Curran. What's his distinguishing feature? Sam Curran. His dad's from Zimbabwe. Sam Curran. And he's beloved by Liz Yates. Sam Curran.
So So a little Sammy Curran into the attack in place of James Anderson. It'd be interesting to see if he can get the same kind of nibble off the pitch that the opening pair have managed in the last few overs. Managed to sort of wave a few away from the edges of South African batsmen as Curran is into Elgar. Bowls a pretty rank ball that Elgar tucks away down to deep mid-wicket, and that is just about gone all the way for one of these.
That was a rank loosener, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't sort of leg barely on leg stump, and that
was outside leg.
Yeah, easy pickings for Elgar, who just tucks that one into deep mid wicket. Not much on it, and it sort of trickled away to the boundary, but it got there in the end. Gosh, that really was outside leg stump.
Yeah, it was a rank
good ball
outside.
to a right-hander.
It was, and another one, almost identical to the ball before. Milan tucks that one down to mid wicket, and this time it's cut off in the deep, and they will come back for two.
Three, yeah.
Yeah, so a couple of looseners from Sammy, but hopefully he can straighten up.
Well, no, he needs to bowl that ball again now as the right-hander.
Yeah, he does quite. Yeah, it's two pretty much identical deliveries. That one's slightly straighter, but yeah, it's not the best of starts. But any noise on Twitter?
And Forsyth says, I'm trying to find positives in this torso. Roots, solid slip catching, perhaps? Help me out here.
Well, he's still got some runs to play with. Not many, it has to be said, but...
And Oliver Jones, talking about the selection from Sri Lanka, says, a more interesting tail selection back then. We used to have 3 or 4 genuine rabbits if the selection was right.
Yes.
Yes. Giddings, Mullally and Tufnell, I think, was the best one.
Yes.
Oh, Tufnell, yeah, Jesus.
And talking about Crawleys, I said, pitched up cricket says, after this.
As Hamza leaves a ball from Curran well alone outside his off stump, goes through to Butler, and there is no run.
England would kill for a John Crawley right now. That's where we are. Yeah, he had a reasonable Test career.
Strange.
Very leg-sided again.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? He had a vertical pickup as well.
And his best match was the one where we got absolutely stuffed by Sri Lanka.
Yes.
In '98.
Yes, gosh. Only a year old was I then, as Curran runs one just backwards of Gully, and they will scamper. Hamza runs one backwards to Gully, and they'll scamper through for the single.
Is that the one where they got about 600 and something in the second innings?
And then we wasted his 156 when we scored about 400, and then I think Jai Sarir and someone else got some big runs.
And then
Murray just wheeled away at one end,
and pretty much in time
with a 9 for in one innings and a 7 for in the other.
Gosh, what we wouldn't give for someone like him in the side. As Curran bowls another one slightly straight this time, and Best managed to cut it off at mid wicket, and there is no run.
I have in my hand a piece of paper.
Oh.
From our very own producer Hendo.
Yes.
Saying, I put out a tweet about England's top 5 in 1999 in New Zealand. Butcher, Stewart, Hussain, Thorpe and Ramps.
It's not a bad top 5.
Not at all, as Curran is in to Elgar. That one better. Left outside the off stump though by Elgar, and there is no run. Elgar moves on to 24 from 30. Moved on quite a nice tick. South Africa 37 for 1.
I'm trying to think of another period of a golden English batting lineup.
Well, you think, well, it wasn't that long ago. You had Cook, Strauss opening.
Strauss, Cook, Trott, Peterson, Bell.
Yeah.
Which was
backed up with Pryor as the keeper, who's not bad.
It's Collingwood at 6.
That was not a bad batting lineup, man.
There was that period where every batsman from 1 to 7 had an average over 40.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Well, Ramps never really got going, did he? I mean, he's a quality batsman, but he's one of these people who flatters to deceive at Test level.
Yes,
Butcher, I felt Butcher was a bit of the same.
Yes, as Hamza drives a full one from Broad, and that is just about beat the chasing fielder to the boundary and goes for one of these.
1, 2, 3, 4. They've got 24 runs in fours out of 38 so far.
Yes, I mean that was very eminently drivable.
Yeah, it's too full.
Stuart Broad. It's easy pickings for the new batsman Hamza.
Jonathan Lowe says to us, last Sri Lanka tour had Moeen, Leach and Rashid in spinners, and Rashid can bat a bit at the tail of the order if you need an extra 20 or 30 run.
Yeah.
Were there to allow Butler to be a specialist batsman if he's going to be in the side, since Bairstow would undoubtedly be dropped.
As Hamza just knocks one from Broad
I'm
up
not
to
sure about
cover, and
Bairstow
there is
being
no run.
dropped, because didn't he have his FU ton in that last tour of Sri Lanka as an opener?
It was at 3.
Oh no, that's right, he was at 3.
Yes, in that tour where I think Stokes started at 3 and then Bairstow came in when before we discovered Mr. Denley, who is very slowly but surely cementing his place on the side. As Broad is in again to Hamza. This one driven up to mid-off, and there is no run.
And Messenger says the biggest positive from this tour is the fact that folks will definitely be back in the side soon.
Well, again, this goes back to Ed Smith and his, his horses for courses. I do think folks will be back in the side to go to Sri Lanka. He's clearly the best keeper, and you need the best keepers against spin, not necessarily against pace. And they probably will go in with a 3-spin attack. I mean, if the wickets are anything like last time, pace really didn't do bugger all, did it?
No, indeed. As Broad is in again to Hamza. Oh, this one sort of drops down to Butler, and there is no run. South Africa 38 for 1. I would quite, despite my bias, I would. Oh,
he's got a warning for going on a bloody pitch already.
Oh gosh.
Is that rifle?
Yeah. Stuart looking somewhat perplexed.
No bowlers union there.
No, indeed. Although
I'm sure he's supposed to tell him first, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, normally if you
only bowled 4 overs.
Good player management says you're getting very close, Stuart. No, you might want to back it back a bit.
And we see the handy line drawn on the pitch. I mean, he has his follow through was pretty much straight down the middle of the pitch there, but you would expect some form of warning as Broad is in again to Hamza, who edged one and is caught!
Catch.
Stokes takes a fantastic catch, diving down to his right at second slip. Hamza is gone.
Excellent.
I won't look back, 'cause by the time that I do, you'll be gone.
Well, there you go. They're a bit like us, eh?
Can you just imagine the send off for the umpire there? Oh, thanks, ump.
I mean, a ball.
Change of line was just what I needed.
That's a great catch.
It's a phenomenal catch. A ball that didn't do a phenomenal amount.
No, he was doing what England were doing, wasn't he? He was playing at a ball that he didn't really need to be playing at, as outside the line of the stumps.
Brilliant catch by Stokes, diving two-handed down inches off the ground.
Down and forward.
It's a very, very impressive piece of fielding.
Let's get through some tweets whilst they're...
Indeed.
I've got 2 in a row on the bets. Let's go further.
Melbourne Cricket talking about that fragile English golden batting order says, not really, no. Ramps averaged 30. No, he didn't. He averaged 27, I think, over the course of his career. Butcher was not great either, which is something I agree with, 1 innings aside. Burns will have a better test record than him, I'd say. Root and Stokesy would walk into that top 5.
Yeah, Root and Stokes would, the truth.
We had James Humberson coming in talking to us. He's had a fabulous day at the SCG, watching Labuschagne's brilliant double ton.
Oh, fucking hell.
And then superb breakthroughs and opening stand by New Zealand.
Yeah.
Now retiring to listen to Guerilla Cricket whilst I fall asleep. Smiley face.
Welcome to you.
Well, at least it seems New Zealand didn't lose early wickets in that one.
They were 60 odd
63
without
for none.
63 for none.
And some more shout outs on Cricket Tracker. Abid Hussain says hi. Mabasha says something, how'd we? Darwin Goodlow says shout out for him. And Fahid Raza says hello as well.
Hello to you all on Cricket Tracker. I did say at the start of this innings that I fancy us to have South Africa 3 down by lunch and then still have them 3 down by the end of the day.
And a couple from YouTube. John M. Boger says, good morning, even if it's still kind of night here in the States.
Morning.
Chat seems much better behaved than it was last time I watched the ODI live on YouTube. And Alex de Pfeffel says, the Saffers will win again. Yes, that's entirely possible, but
yes, early in round.
but all results are possible at this stage.
They are.
I mean, they are. Well, Jesus Christ, no one else really got any runs apart from Smith, did they? And Warner at the top of the order. Lowy Shane's 200 really pulled him out of the fire. Fucking hell, he's annoying. Caught Bold Astle in the end. Probably going for a slap.
They're at Sydney, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's why Todd Astle's playing.
Sydney in the smoke. Ah, jeez. I mean, it's
And the spin.
It's like the apocalypse out there, man.
Yes,
Jesus.
it is.
Oh well, the skipper comes out to bat, doesn't he?
He does indeed.
Let's give him a little
Jingling.
Duplessis, life goes on, right? Life goes on.
Interesting stat there that Faf's highest test score is only 130.
Yeah, I saw that as well. 900.
Surprising.
And
900 an average of 40.
3,800 runs, pretty much. But his highest score is 137. You'd have thought he'd got at least 150, possibly one double in that.
Yes, although
Which kind of lays extra claim to the fact that when he scores, he tends to score at a sedate pace.
indeed, as Broad comes in to the South African captain, who drops one down the pitch, and there is no run. Yes, he's a strange case of a batsman, Faf du Plessis. Always has this air of sort of a lot of the talk seems to make him seem much better than he actually is. Although you can't argue with an average of 41 given what England have in their batting lineup. Just seeing replays of that phenomenal Ben Stokes catch. Really didn't do a lot at all, that delivery. And to go forward and down so quickly, he really is something special in the field for England. It'll be interesting to see how he affects the game with the ball today, given no pace from Archer. He's the quickest we have in the attack. Will he be used hopefully somewhat less sparingly than he was in the last test?
Yeah.
Any more tweets, Jason?
Yep, it was good. It says England's made 400 in the first innings twice in 2.5 years. It's just possible that 3.5 test matches with Sibley and 1.5 for Crawley isn't the problem. Plus Crawley's only playing here because Burns injured himself.
Yep.
Yes, as Curran finds a slightly straighter line to Elgar, who knocks one at mid-on for no run. South Africa 38 for 2.
Well, we also, I mean, we are. The thing is, last time England played here, there was 600 played 600, wasn't it? And we're all kind of expecting that. But there were two different teams. England had a much better batting line up there.
It was a once-in-a-lifetime innings from Stokes.
Once-in-a-lifetime innings from Stokes, and we dropped bloody Hashim Amla, God knows how many times.
Curran in again to Elgar, who drops that one up to mid-off, and there is no run.
And it seems a bit of a different wicket. It wasn't doing anything in that test.
Well, maybe slightly more traditional Cape Town wicket.
Yeah, it's a bit drier, isn't it? It's accepting turn. And even yesterday, the odd ball kept low. It was an invariable bounce on day one. So
Johnny Bairstow get a big one in that test.
He got 150. Well. Temba Bavuma got 100 as well. He got his maiden 100 on day 4. After Hashim got his double ton.
Of course, as Curran in again to Elgar, who plays that with a nice straight bat, and there is no run.
Anna Forsyth says, I'm scared to take the gloves from Butler because in the act of passing them to the rightful owner Folkes, either of the ginger upstarts could grab them. You're talking about Bairstow and or Pope?
I think Ollie Pope should be kept as far away from the gloves as possible, given his pretense to being able to bat, which is something we've sorely missed recently. As Curran is in again to Elgar, who straight bats that up to mid-off, and there is no run.
And Surendra says, so I've seen Abid Jato correspond to you on Twitter. Are you aware of his crystal ball predictions on Quick Info? He has impressive ones like the Durban Miracle, the BBL collapse, and many other in T20 leagues in the CB over the past year.
And what's he saying about this game? I haven't seen it, obviously.
I haven't seen it.
So hopefully he's saying that South Africa will get all out for 180, and he's right.
Hopefully so.
So it's Mystics Abijato.
As Elgar just drops one from Curran up to mid-off, and there is no run.
John Lowe says, and when Bairstow came in at 3 in the last Sri Lanka test, he got a century. Yes, he did. And still he dropped, as his test form is nowhere near what it was 2 years ago.
No, well, he's just, you know, I mean, in the last test, I was saying yesterday, I was really angry when he got out against a new ball when we were chasing that score. We were still in with a chance, and the new ball came along, he just slapped one straight to cover.
As Elgar drops one from Curran down to the leg side, and there is no run. It's just that horrible habit with Johnny of leaving a gap between his bat and pad big enough to drive a London bus through.
Well, there's that, and then he chases wide ones. You know, he hits them quite. I mean, the ball he got out to, he hit quite sweetly, but he hit it. You know, he knew a fielder was there. He chased a wide one. It was going away from him even further. Timed it nicely, but straight to the man at gully, and you know, it's a bit crap, really.
It's a lack of match awareness sometimes when you know, you lost a wicket at the other and you think, okay, I need to rein myself in now. And then they see something to hit and they say, oh, I'm going to hit that.
Yeah.
I've always got the sense with Johnny that he's an aggressive number 7 that we've tried to make into a proper batsman a number of times, and it's never quite worked.
And he's a decent one-day opener. You know.
Indeed. As Faf leaves one well alone from Broad, he gets a little bit of nibble, but that's through to Butler, and there is no run. I think he's the couple of hundreds he has got at sort of 4 and 5, 6 have almost done more harm for his career than good, because he is an aggressive number 7 who can come in and smack it around a bit regardless of the situation.
Which is exactly what Butler is as well.
Yes.
And you've got 2 of them in the side.
Indeed, as Broad is in against Faf, that's a full one. He digs it out up to mid-on, and there is no run.
Sophie Cox joins us at Fireside Soap. Says, of course, nothing beats live cricket, but listening to Guerillas on the beach is not too bad. There's a lovely picture of a very nice look at the scene.
Oh, where are you on a beach?
Wherever it is, I want to be there.
Yes,
well, exactly.
It looks very, very nice indeed. Although
Sydenham's looking sunny today, blue sky out.
Not too grey.
It's not too cold.
And Dave Wood says, I assume Liam Dawson will be chief water carrier in Sri Lanka.
As Broad is into Faf, who drops one down to point, and there is no run.
If Moeen doesn't go, then I would imagine he would be, the next sort of batsman who bowls replacement potentially.
Yes.
I think Moeen's playing it smart. He's taking his time out because we miss him really. I mean, he does need to get some runs. It's true. But I think that's part of the thing that they dropped him so far down the order. I mean, you think where he's batted at.
Well, most of his major runs have come at 8.
Yes, well, for England, but I mean his runs at county championship, county
he
level.
batted at 3.
Yeah, exactly.
My last attendance.
And we've just put Stuart Broad off as he's running in.
Faf waves him away. But no, my last attendance at Guerilla was Moeen's fateful attempt at bowling in that first Ashes test, which was less than pleasant to watch.
Yeah, he didn't do too well.
Did not indeed. Ben Stokes chewing gum, so Hendo would not be too pleased.
He's chewing his fingernails.
As Broad gets du Plessis to leave one outside his off stump, goes through to Butler, and there is no run.
Edgar Allan Poe, presumably not the Edgar Allan Poe.
No, you'd assume
tweets
not.
us, it says, Sachin's stats make for astonishing reading, especially in both the regular frequency, quality of the opposition and timescales. Hashtag God given genius, and that's in reply to a tweet from Cricketopia talking about Tendulkar's day, which is I presume today, and he scored 169 against South Africa, Cape Town in 97, 241 against Australia at the ECG. That was a famous innings.
As Broad into Faf, who leaves one well alone outside his off stump, goes through to Butler for no run.
At the
one way,
SCG.
That's the one where he put away his cover drive because it was too dangerous, and then proceeded to grind his way to 240. 154 against Australia and 1846 against South Africa in different years. So he obviously likes batting around about this time of the year, but I'll counter that by saying around this time of the year there's a lot of test matches to be played.
Yes.
In the subcontinent. And
so Broad in again to du Plessis, who knocks one down behind square, and there is no run. It's the end of the over. South Africa 38 for 2. Dean Elgar 24 from 36. He's gone along quite nicely this morning, and the skipper yet to score from his 7 deliveries.
It's good for Broader. He went for none for 8 in his first over, and from his next 5 overs, he's got 2 for 4.
And just to prove that she is listening and she is tweeting back to us, Sophie Cox says that beach is on Koh Lanta in southern Thailand.
Nice.
Lovely.
God, I haven't had a winter holiday for years. That's what happens when you have kids.
Well,
Can't
you've
do
got
it.
cubs, yeah.
Yeah, unless you go away for Christmas, which is extraordinarily expensive.
Yes, quite. Although Cape Town looking equally splendid this morning as Curran is in. Again, that's 4-1 that Elgar jams up out of the block hole, and there is no run.
We should be having a change at the end of this over.
Yes, I
if
imagine
you're
we should.
listening.
So we'll play old Guerilla musical chairs at the end of this one from Curran. As we looking at a waving cameraman on our screens. From
That's a nice spot, isn't
That's
it?
quite a perch he's in at the top of the
quite.
President's Pavilion.
What a view, as Curran in again to Elgar, who lets his hands go outside off stump, but only finds Denley on the deep point boundary. Comes through for a single.
Good to break this partnership, wouldn't it?
Yes,
Especially you have to get off the mark.
Yeah.
Well, 2 major experienced batsmen, you'd want one of them in the hutch fairly soon.
Yeah. Round of Dustin next, and then followed by Quentin de Kock.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't they have someone else before de Kock?
Oh, maybe Rafsy. I'm going to stay here. Okay.
Hendo giving us
Instructions?
giving our instructions in.
Sign language.
Yes, says 4-7 more. As Curran is in to Faf, who just drops that one up to mid-off, and there is no run. South Africa 39 or 2. Any more action on Twitter, Jason?
No, that's we're up to date at the moment. But as soon as you say that, we'll get a flood of tweets.
I'm sure we will.
2 seconds.
Please do continue to talk to us on this.
Oh, I
Nice.
should remind you about the GPL.
Yes, we should.
Des got in touch actually saying thank you for paying him out yesterday.
Indeed. As Curran in again to Faf, who drops that one down to square leg.
I can't imagine
For the single.
Messi Jez was particularly impressed with the is it an extra run, is it not an extra run being
Yes,
given,
I know.
which given the closeness of his score of 263 to the actual winning score.
Yeah, he was unhappy that I was saying that Des should win it as well. He was upset. But, you know.
You pays your money and you takes your chance.
Absolutely.
You do?
Des had been going heavy on the GPL for the last few games.
So he's recouped some of his investments.
Yes.
As Curran is in to Elgar, who drops that one to extra cover, and there is no run.
Hendo is coming in.
Here's we are ready for a change after this ball.
Oh, look, some tidying up by Andy. No one else bothers doing that.
Excuse me, I washed up yesterday.
Oh, okay. I mean, the amount of nappy wipes on this floor. What are people using to clean the mics? Can you bring a plastic bag in, actually?
Curran is into Elgar, who drops one to extra cover. There is no run, and we will now have a changeover.
And whilst they're doing that, I shall get through a couple more tweets very quickly. Lingmao says Butler versus Besto. I'd rather have Butler in defence and Butler's potentially in attack, but rather have Folkestone either, especially for Sri Lanka. And Sophie Cox says, talking of Thailand, shout out to the Thai women's cricket team who qualified for the T20 World Cup this year.
Oh, well done, Thailand. That's rather good. We have a change. We have Andy in. Are you going to...
Yep, setting in on ball by ball. It's me, Marie Kondo.
Marie Kondo.
She's the queen of tidying
Oh, yes,
up.
that is. But apparently she's launched a range, hasn't she, of new things you can buy to, replace the clutter that she's made you get rid of.
Well, she does very well out of it.
Well, I'm sure she
The
does.
book's very good, actually, on applying her techniques at home. I think she might keel over if she came in here.
Her technique is basically just throw everything away.
Throw everything away. If you haven't used it in 3 months and it's not seasonal, throw it away.
Absolutely. Tell my wife that, please.
I'll just send her the book.
Yeah.
Duplessis back on strike. He's got an uncluttered technique. And Anderson's coming back in. Full face of the bat from Duplessis up to mid-on.
Interesting. I'll give Stokes a little go. Well, I'll certainly give him a go before lunch.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's still a little bit of hardness in the ball, you would think, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Just rough them up, play the Neil Wagner role. And
he doesn't really bowl like that, though, does he?
He
Well, he can do, yes, he will. Bowl to a pan.
Wagner has a rare ability to do that all day.
Yes, he does, yeah. But that's always what I've said about England. They don't stick with sometimes don't stick with the plans long enough.
Very fit. Anderson 2 slips in a gully, full face again from Duplessis back to the bowler.
Well, I was hoping that Stokes catch would fire England, but it's all gone a little bit quiet again, hasn't it?
That's not a bad start, though.
No, I think it's better than...
Yep.
Considering they were 17 for none after 2 overs.
Exactly, yes. Well, Brody, I saw someone tweeting that Brody, when his place is under threat, suddenly starts to bowl well again. I mean, you can almost say that about a lot of England cricketers who've been on the verge of being dropped, haven't you? You had Cook at one point,
well,
Strauss.
Natural variance and regression to the mean as Anderson comes in again. At that one, Duplessis took his hand off the bat, took his bottom hand off as it jumped up just a little bit. No real danger.
John Shenton gets in touch and says, I'm only 50 miles from Cape Town and I've got no tickets as I'm at a wedding. At least I had the decency to get married after close of play. Weather much better than home in a jersey. Well, yes, I can imagine. And we've seen beautiful tweet from the silly military of Newlands. Beautiful it is. Absolutely beautiful. Have you been there, Andy?
I have, actually. It's one of the few perhaps the only ground overseas I've been to. Anderson is left alone by Duplessis outside off stump. I went out to see a test between Australia and South Africa 2000 and not sure, 4 or 5 years ago. It was the one Michael Clarke got worked over by Morne Morkel.
Oh, that would have been fun.
It was fun.
That really is worth travelling on 12 hours on a jet to see, I think.
Yeah, and Warner got 100 in both innings. And
that's not so much.
That's not fun.
No,
Ryan
I don't
Harris
come straight
took,
back.
two wickets at the end to win the series, actually, that one. Anderson's back in. Duplessis gets an edge and he's out.
Yes,
out. Stokes
yes,
is out.
yes.
Stokes has called a much more comfortable catch. It's one for Anderson. England understandably delighted with that wicket.
That's good stuff. Come on, you stupid machine.
I don't think Duplessis did too much wrong there, did he? Did he do much wrong there?
Played inside it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem to do a lot, I didn't think.
Well,
I think that
both sides are pretty shit batting.
Well, they are. It's
just held its line.
Yeah.
I think you can see his back foot come through just a little bit, as batsmen often do when they've misplayed a shot. I wonder if the ball before, maybe it caught right on the shoulder of the bat. It might have just taken him out of the mode of getting properly forward, which he didn't seem to do there. He's a bit disgruntled as he jogs up the stairs, and maybe he'll go for a run like they do to work off that nervous energy. Or maybe he can't do that because he's captain and has to pay attention.
Yeah, a little bit tentative, wasn't it, the shot? I think perhaps that's what you would say, and I think you're right, that the previous ball where he had to take the hand off the bat, maybe the fact that it jumped on him a little bit made him, as I say, a bit more tentative when he was playing at that one. Didn't seem to do anything in the air, for sure. And
I think it held its line a little bit,
tiny
off the
bit,
wicket.
yeah, possibly. But it wasn't extravagant, but maybe that's all you need.
So 40 for 3, and things looking a bit better for England at the moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, the one good thing about the dismissal of Milan was that it became evident that this South African team can play just as many bad shots as England's batting lineup, I would say. It was a poor shot from him that he got out to, I thought.
Rassie van der Dussen is going to come in, fresh off his 50 in the previous test. He's the first player to score debut 50s in T20, ODI and tests.
Yes, I thought he batted very well in the second innings at Centurion. I think he looks like a good batsman. He's been around as well. He's like Milan, 115 first-class matches.
He's one of those batsmen the many players in the South African team who's played so few tests, they have to give you the first-class stats rather than the test ones.
Yeah.
Well, it was his debut last, wasn't it? Anyway,
yes,
let's give him a jingle.
Rassie van der Dussen can play all the shots. He'll bring his reverse sweep to every game.
4 men ranging from slip to gully and a short leg as Van der Dussen plays that one up to mid-on, and there's no run.
Talking about how this team stacks up with when England were seemingly at their lowest point in 1999, and I produced that top 5, and people argue, yes, Ramps, well, he didn't fulfil his potential. Stephen Winter says the most amazing thing about how bad we were in the 90s was how good some of the cricketers we had were. So did those teams just underachieve?
On
is
paper,
the question.
Yeah, well, certainly Ramprakash would be a classic
Yeah,
example.
and Hick, I suppose, who wasn't, by the end of the decade, he wasn't there, but
there wasn't the problem more the bowling and the lack of an all-rounder.
Yes, in fact, if you look at
lack of a spinner, and
I mean, you had the likes of Mullally in that team, one or two others. I mean, you had Tufnell, who, perhaps in retrospect we think he was a better bowler than he was. I don't know.
Yeah,
Who?
possibly.
Tufnell?
Yeah.
Tufnell was a decent left-arm spinner.
Decent left-arm spinner, but was he? Do we see him with sort of slightly rose-tinted glasses? I'm not sure.
Well, he had a couple of decent spells, didn't he? That you kind of remember
Yes.
against Australia and
Yes.
stuff like that.
The West
7
Indies,
wickets,
but
wasn't
yeah,
it, the Oval?
you're hopefully not judged by the 1 or 2 spells over a 60-test career, however many he played. It's going to be England's spinner anyway. Talking of spinners,
Early into the attack.
he is in quite early. It's
Worth having a look.
43.
Left-hander.
He's left-hand bowling Van der Dussen.
Oh!
And a dive by extra cover beat him on his left. It's going to go for 4, but certainly a very flashy shot from Elgar, who does go after the ball.
2 + 2 is a remember.
And I think that's Crawley at
No,
extra cover.
No, it's Pope.
It's Pope.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crawley is very lanky.
A little bit of air. Oh, Crawley had a big dive, went past his left hand. Certainly wasn't controlled from Elgar. He didn't go down or up. It was absolutely catching height.
And the bowler is.
Emerge from the county scene where it rises to rain. It's Dominic Bess.
Short leg and a slip for the left-hander, and understandably Elgar's a bit more careful with that one.
The latest in a long line of sinners who turned out to be rejects.
Here he comes bowling in his sunglasses, and that was onto leg stump. It beats short leg, but mid-wicket is round and there's no run.
Richard Scott, his view on the 99 or the late 90s, mid-90s team. All good batsmen at times, all managed lengthy slumps too. Our test batting was horribly short of confidence in the 90s, as it is now. I think it's worse now, I really do.
Well, all this stems from just not being particularly good, not good enough. Elgar covers up a little bit fuller. Goes out into the covers for no run.
I do think short form cricket has had a massive effect on batting pretty much all around the world. I mean, you look at some of the better batsmen.
Bess is in again. Little press from Elgar, and he clips that one into the leg side. I don't think they've taken a run there.
I mean, some of the best test batsmen are patient ones, with the exception of the greats, like current greats like Kohli and Kane Williamson and stuff. Don't play all the formats, Someone like Pujara doesn't play ODI cricket.
I think as Bess comes in again, I'll come on to that at the end of the over. Again, a little press. Elgar plays it back. I was reading Cricket 2.0 by Tim Wigmore and Freddie Wild, and one of the things they said about how the game will change, which I agree with, is very few players will be playing Test and International T20. There'll be some overlap with ODIs on both sides. And even now, I said on Twitter, I don't think anyone for England should be playing both Test, and I don't think anyone's in England's best Test team and best T20 team.
Well, maybe that is the problem, is you're trying to make them play too many formats. And they all want to play because they want to prove that they're adaptable.
I don't think Root should be playing T20. I don't think Butler should be playing Tests. I think they should at the moment. There's no reason why you have to define them to be separate. I just think the best team is 11 guys here and 11 guys there, and they're completely different. Anderson comes in and left alone by Van der Dussen. There's no run.
Beefy at 365 Days of Sport completely disagrees about the notion of this the top 5 that we put out from 99. You're having a laugh. Butcher 34 was hopeless. Stewart 39 passable as a wicket-keeper batsman only. I have to disagree with that. He's a much better than that. Nas 30. Hang on. Nas 37, a total plodder. Ramps 27. Yes, we can agree with Ramps never producing. I'll come back to the rest of his tweet in a minute.
I think he's right. None of those averages are good enough. Here comes Anderson, 1 for 14. Left alone again by Van der Dussen. There's no run.
Yeah, but in terms of the bats, I think they were up against probably, well, apart from perhaps, I was going to say, in recent terms, in India have produced a very good pace attack. That's probably in the last 5-6 years.
Yes.
Australia, Still got a good, always seems to have a good pace attack. But you go back to the 94, 95 in those terms, and you had some of the great West Indians. You had some great Australians. McGrath, you had Warne.
So that's an edge, and it's gone flying. Not even Stokes could get that one. It's gone flying. Well, there wasn't really a third. It has gone through the gap. That does happen sometimes. Can't be helped, and it's flashed away for 4.
It's me, Sanshi. It's me, Sanshi.
I'm sure that'll get the Bothams chirping about the gap in a slip fielder, but you have to have a gap somewhere.
Yeah, true. Beefy goes on to say, all these were home counties boys benefiting from a shocking crop of first-class players at the time. Thought the only one that deserves any praise. Well, I take part of your point, but I totally disagree with you. In regards to someone like Stewart, who did a double job, a very difficult double job, very well, I think, in general terms. People talk in sort of degrading terms about his wicket-keeping, but his wicket-keeping was actually exceptionally good.
It certainly got better as his career went on as
Anderson's left alone by Van der Dussen, and it looked from that previous shot as though Anderson was talking in degrading terms to Van der Dussen.
I think it's true. Ramps, I mean, I think also you look at someone like Atherton, and Atherton's average ended up not being that brilliant, I think.
It was in 38, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it might have been slightly less than that.
Atherton himself, I think, realised later in his career he didn't cash in enough against the weaker attacks of the time.
That might well be true, yeah. I mean, you often see that, don't you, these days?
Stable door has been bolted. 3 slips have tightened up. And even Van der Dussen pulls his bottom hand off the bat there. Or maybe spat a little bit.
I don't think this pitch is as good as we all thought it was, to be fair.
No, there's a little bit there, but I do think a lot of it is there when the ball is harder. I think England really wasted. Even if you allow for a couple of bad shots, you have to say that they've wasted 2 or 3 wickets yesterday. I think they should have got another 80 at least.
Crikey, Phil Tuffle's average was shit.
Well, there you go.
There you go, exactly. Anderson's in again. It's a good ball. And again, Van der Dussen's a little bit outside half of the bat. England looking chirpy in the field. Good body language. And it's 48 for 3.
Just to go back to Beefy, I don't know if he's actually listening or whether he's just responding to the tweet. But if you are listening, question really, you're saying a really bad bunch of first-class players at around that time. And we seem to be in a similar situation. But is it for different reasons? What was the reason that the first-class crop of players was so poor at that time? Well, it's obviously different from what the reason is now.
The game is completely different now from what it was 20 or even 10 years ago, and there's no point hiding from that. That's the way it is.
Well, I don't think. It's probably 20 years ago, but 10 years, I'm not sure.
Oh, the advent of T20.
Yeah, but the T20's been going now for what in England since 2002. Or 2003, 2003 I think it was.
Oh, I don't think it was.
It was.
Denley comes in from the deep, and they've taken a single out to the sweeper.
When was all that shit with Stanford?
Oh God.
About 2004.
Well, there you go.
Well, there, yes. Yeah, so it was already going.
It's been going for a year.
I mean, I remember going to one of the first games.
I think the IPL, or the advent of international T20, that wasn't till 2007.
Oh no, international, but people have been playing the.
But it's international that's changed everything, and IPL.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, yeah.
Tuftle's first-class bowling. His Test career was 42 matches. He got 120 wickets. Best bowling was 7 for 47, which is what I remember.
3 wickets per test. That's not great, is it? That one's clipped past short leg, and there should be a man out in the deep to pick that one up. Indeed there is, and his average was
37.68.
Yeah, that's.
Is that Atherton? Sorry.
No, that's Tufnell's bowling.
Oh, Tufnell's bowling average.
Let's look at Atherton's Test career. I quite like going through these things occasionally.
I know you find out things that you've completely forgotten, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
You can see how the averages don't quite match with your conceptions.
Yes.
Press from Elgar then goes back, plays it out to point, and there's no run. But he's on to 30 in decent time. It's 50 for 3.
Why, when I put Atherton in, is it giving me top 20 holiday homes?
Top 20 Atherton holiday homes. Has he gone into property? They do a lot of them.
Yeah, true.
Oh, Atherton seems to be a place. Holiday rentals in Atherton.
Oh, okay. Michael Atherton.
That's the one.
Tests, 115 tests. 7,728 runs, which is not too bad. High score, 185. Average, 37.69.
37.69, yeah. But I reckon you can do a thing on Cricket Info where you can see the cumulative average. So you can work out, the periods of
highs and lows.
Highs and lows, yeah.
2 shortish extra covers for Don Best, the left-hander. And Elgar plays it out to one of those. They would have called that the wall at my previous club.
The wall, the extra cover wall.
Place the wall.
Yes. Once in a sort of joke match, they put 4 guys there, and the batsman was stupid enough to get caught by one of them. Back goes Elgar. And again, it's played out to a man at short cover. He's wearing a helmet, but he is 15 yards from the bat. It
Well, I
seems
imagine he's just been moved from short leg, hasn't he? He's going to go back there now.
So he hasn't taken it off. Okay. No, he's going in. He is going to silly extra cover, if that's such a thing. It's silly mid-off, really. And that one is played just past him on the bounce. Who is that 56? One of the new bugs.
It's Crawley. Yeah, that is Crawley. Abijato Sensama says, in this digital era, can there be the introduction of scorecard annotations? Such scoreboard reports will add a concise narrative to any match. Each player gets a line of description or more, with the writer adding one's own humour and style to the scorecard. Well, I suppose you had that to a certain extent, didn't you, with Bill Frindle when he started to do lengthier scorecards. You would certainly get a description of the way that a player was out.
Yeah.
I just think that with scorecards, people just want to be able to grab it quickly, don't they?
I'm not sure you should be editorialising in scorecards.
Yes, I mean, you could do. I mean, but I think when you see a score, you just want to see the scorecard and who's done what initially. You just want a quick update, don't you? I think.
Yeah, one of the websites went a bit crazy the other day. Anderson's coming in. That's Fuller, played out to extra cover by Van der Dussen. And I was just trying to look up the points table in the BBL, but it would list the team at the top, Melbourne Stars, 10 points, and then all their games underneath it. I'm sure it wasn't meant to do that.
Right, okay.
And so the whole, you had to plough through them to see the rest of them.
So what was Mark Butcher's test average?
Well, he reckons 34. He reckons 34. I don't know.
34.58.
Yeah, but I suppose
much better than that.
I suppose we remember him for Headingley, don't we? That one game.
Well, you remember the best points. Yeah. Anderson 1 for 18. 3 slips and a short leg.
Oh.
And that one did definitely jab away, beat the outside edge of a prod from Van der Dussen. He's definitely asking the questions here, Anderson.
I think you might have something about the pitch here. I mean, it's not really doing anything in the air, is it? But it is doing the odd bit off the pitch. It's just England trying to get deeper into this South African order before the ball gets a lot softer.
He followed that Van der Dussen, but he still wasn't very close to it. Yeah, he saw Curran wasn't really getting anything going, and they whipped him out of the attack pretty quickly.
Yeah, that was a lovely ball, that last one from Anderson, when you see it a couple of times again. Van der Dussen looks at it, doesn't he?
Too good for me.
Alex Stewart's test average?
With 39, I think we covered it. Left alone that time by Van der Dussen. Dies a little bit after it goes past.
Yeah, 39.54.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have said it was slightly high. I thought it was above 40, but that's not a bad average considering he's a keeper.
Well, also, the other thing is, look at how long these guys played.
Yeah, he played 133 matches.
Exactly. So, to be still averaging that after that period of time.
On the other hand, I would say if you're averaging under 40 and you still get 130 games, that is actually a testament to the lack of depth you have.
Yes and no.
No, just yes.
No, I disagree with it. Certain elements of that.
Played down in front of Gully, and Point picks it up, and there is no run.
Well, I mean, you look at now around the world, how many Test top sixes everyone's got an average above 40.
Well, that would be very rare, but it's you look at that Test side and you've got everyone's under 40, which is the opposite.
Yeah, but I think I think for a lot of their careers, if you look at their cumulative averages, you will find that they were above 40.
Well, that's
for a
how
long
it works.
Period.
You'll be best at your peak and then fall off a little bit as you get older.
Of course, but
Anderson comes in left alone. A little bit more carry on that one. There's no run.
I suppose you could argue that these guys played too long because there wasn't enough coming through, or whether there was just you stick with what you know.
It was a bit of a closed shop as well. I think in terms of there's certainly read books by Paul Nixon and so on. He said very, very clicky, and Well, actually, he said that Stewart was the only one of the experienced players who was actually nice to him. The rest just treated him like a bag boy.
Really?
Yeah.
He was very unpopular in Australia 2006-07 in the one-day series.
He talks about that quite amusingly, yeah.
Why?
They hated him.
Well, England or Australia?
Australia, yeah.
Left alone for no run.
Hated him.
Yeah, he talks about being sledged by Michael Clarke when Clarke was batting. And Clarke was calling him a clubby.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the players. I mean, the crowds hated him for some reason. They really.
Yeah, well, that was 2006-07 was all Australia getting the Ashes back and stomping us 5-0, and it was all a bit aggressive.
I suppose that's true. 40 for 3 says Evil Scooter. This was a little bit of time ago. Says, should we all step back from the ledge now? Dr. Leonie Hicks says the Van der Dussen jingle is an assault on the ears. Oh dear.
You don't normally hear Somewhere Over the Rainbow described as an assault on the ears.
No, it's true. Dave Wood says, do we look back at Athens and give him too much credit? His average wasn't great, and it's possibly only due to the sheer average ability of his teammates that he's held in such high regard.
What we're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, but I still think he got out to a lot of good bowlers a lot of times. If you look at the fact that Ambrose and McGrath would get him quite a lot. Donald. Although, of course, there is that classic 99.
Well, he should have been
Was that 99 or 98? That was 98.
Yeah, we were watching that the other day in the first test, weren't we?
Well, he should have been given out.
That's why Donald was so angry.
Massive glove through to the keeper that wasn't given.
Bess, not quite the same pace. Left alone by Elgar, so held its line rather than turned.
Oh, what have I done now? I've done something to the...
And then he got dropped.
Yeah, bowling quite slowly, Bess. 51 miles an hour, giving it a bit of air. Very obvious press by Elgar. He's played that one not too long on, and there'll be an easy single. Broad picks it up.
Doesn't have to be particularly effective, does he, Bess?
Well, I guess they wanted, if you have a spinner who can contain and attack, a swan or a lion, but they're gold dust really.
Yeah.
Especially a finger spinner.
India, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, even Pakistan on occasions fielding pretty good damn bowling sides at the moment.
This is now into the right-hander, and Van der Dussen is studious in defence.
The idea that there is a dearth of bowlers inflating averages for current batters isn't true in the way it was 5 to 7 years ago. Certainly, yeah, I agree with that now. I'm just thinking back now.
Well, a lot of things are changing. It's always evolving and mutating. Back to that one goes Van der Dussen. It's good length from Bess. Could have done either there, Van der Dussen. He went back and played it into the leg side. 51 for 3, South Africa trailed by 218. England only added 8 runs this morning. Jimmy Anderson was out. Bess is in again. And dropped into the offside. They'll pick up an easy single to the left hand. I should try to get all these numbers. 52, is that Sibley?
We've had a tweet from Holly Bond.
A big looking lad in the outfield, Sibley.
I had a tweet from Holly Bond who says, I woke up this morning to find Silvery Beams secretly watching you under the duvet. I'm imagining Silvery Beams is your other half. Otherwise, what are you doing there with him under the duvet? Should I be worried? Yes, you should be. Very worried.
Could be a cat.
Oh, that's true.
Covered up by Elgar. There's no run. Butler jogs to the other end as that's the end of the over. 52 for 3.
Do cats have 2 names, though?
Well, cats can have all sorts of
I'm
names.
pretty sure it's not a cat. It seems to be Chris. Leah says, I just went to get some pak choy and suddenly England's score doesn't look that bad. Beefy voice, what is going on? Well, we've taken a couple of wickets. Some good slip catching, unusually for England. What was Stewart's average when not keeping, says Ling Mao? Wasn't it 45-ish? Well, he did go up and down the order as well. That's the other thing. He ended up opening, didn't he? Or there was a large part of his career where he opened.
He started off opening as a keeper batsman, didn't he? And then they dropped him down as a keeper batsman, and then he came back to opening again.
It took a while to get going, didn't he?
Yeah, he did take a while to get going.
He had to sort of overcome the stigma of being considered the coach's son. Well, he was the coach's son.
Yes.
Oh, that's got to be out.
Edge on that. I thought there was an edge, and that's been given. Is there going to Anderson full ball? It looked like an edge.
He looked like an edge to me.
I haven't seen a review.
Yeah, he says he's got an edge. He's all right.
I think he got an edge on that.
Yeah, I think there's a massive edge.
That's my first.
My first instinct was, but I was happy he was given out.
So Rifle thought it was out, but let's have a look.
Let's have a look. It's gonna be one of these. It's a batsman's review.
I was definitely in. Were you definitely in? I don't know.
No problem with the delivery. Doesn't bowl a lot of no balls, Anderson.
Well, if he didn't hit that, mind you, he did do a fucking Shane Watson in the last test, didn't he?
I think he got a big edge on this.
It comes.
Yes,
massive
edge.
He did. Score 1 to us. Score none to Paul Rifle.
Well, I think actually that what I thought initially is that he'd been bowled. He's edged it onto his front pad,
almost.
and then it's gone onto his back pad. I mean, he's kind of lucky.
He's quite fortunate.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I say to people. When people edge the ball and they're given out LBW by their teammate and they have a big moan about it, you'll say, well, it could have gone anywhere. It could have bowled you. It could have gone through to the wicketkeeper. The fact is, if you'd played it properly, there wouldn't have been an issue. But Van der Dussen got away with that one.
You're harsh.
Although I don't like people moaning and making excuses.
I've got the batsman's retort to that, and I'll give it to you after this ball.
Well, Andy is a
release the ball. If
I hadn't had my pad there, it would hit me anyway, and didn't play it
So,
properly.
Well, if
So you can play that deliberately
if
with
that,
your bat
If that comes in, you could just plunge down the wicket, hide your bat directly behind your pad.
What makes you think I didn't do that?
You probably did. Yeah.
In the old days, you could do that, couldn't you?
Well,
Yeah.
you could a lot of the time.
Thus speaketh the
Well, then I
the
will
line
have
spinner.
a whinge in favour of the batsman. Now your 17-year-old umpire has been watching lots of IPL, and he says, "Yeah, that was clipping leg stump, I reckon."
Really?
I have had literally that's happened to me.
What, when you were batting?
When I was batting, I reckon it was clipping leg stump, and my rather more experienced batting partner said that was never out in a million years. Anderson is into the left-handed Elgar, and he's got punched that one away through cover. Fielder is after it. I think that's Crawley again. He picks up turns and throws, but they got a comfortable 2.
Tony Bishop has a good point to make about the 90s. Says the opposite problem to today. County cricket bred batsmen on feather beds, but less effective bowling. Now we have an okay attack, but weak batting. Yeah, I don't understand this notion that to become a good batsman, you have to bat on good decks.
Well, it's as much about bloody technique, isn't it? And the problem is, this is where the one-day game comes in. The technique has changed to sort of hand-eye coordination with the bat rather than technique with the movement.
Anderson's full again. It's played solidly up to mid-off, and there's no run.
I mean, you see it all the time. Players getting out, playing away from their body. The foot's not going towards the ball. The eyes and the head and going towards the ball.
But people
It's
used to
wafting
do
away
that as
outside the
well.
off stump. Yeah, they did, but I don't know.
Well, I think some of it is to do with this notion that if you're going to hit the ball really hard in T20 cricket, you clear the front leg.
Yeah.
And that's totally opposition to getting your foot close to the ball, isn't it? So it wouldn't be surprising that if you're in the mode to try and hit the ball and trying to get runs, that you're not thinking so much about getting your foot to the ball.
And of course you don't, this is it. I mean, if you watch after this.
Anderson comes in, 2 slips now, and Elgar is forward, plays it out to cover point. There's no run.
I mean, if you look at some of the 4s that have been scored, like Elgar's first 4, for example, was just, with the pace of the bowlers on a good pitch and a good outfield, you don't have to hit the ball. You've got to time it.
Yeah.
And therefore, it is about, if you get yourself in position, you get across to the ball, and you time the contact of the ball, it will race away. You don't need to get 6s all the time, and the odd 4 is going to do you some good. You've got time. You've got 5 days, so you don't have to be chasing the ball. You have to, pick your balls and angle the bat and use the pace of the ball.
Anderson's in, clipped into the leg side by Elgar, and he's going to get a comfortable single. I think my counterpoint is that if you're going to get bowled out in 80 overs, then if you score at 4 and over instead of 3, you'll get 80 more runs.
Well, that's a good point.
I mean,
but if you thrash it, you don't make it to 80 overs. You only get out 50.
Well, I think
England
the very successful Australian side of the sort of early 2000s made that quantum leap in batting of taking a more aggressive route and scoring at 4 and over very regularly with Hayden and Co.
But isn't that what has affected the England batsmen, certainly under Trevor Bayliss, this notion that you've got to dominate the bowler. And sometimes it was just about sticking in it, and it was about recognising when you needed to stick in.
Exactly. It's
and
about,
that's what we've become less skillful at. I think.
But I think always going aggressive is always being defensive, as Denley seems to be, just never seems to open up. Is equally a failure to adapt.
I don't know. He likes a pull shot. He certainly takes on the spinners.
He's scoring a strike rate of 30 almost
that was
every
yesterday,
innings.
I think that.
No, he's never above 50. That's flicked away to square leg, backward square leg, and fielded for no run. Bess is back into the attack.
But then he's thinking to himself, as well as trying to establish. Well, no, but I'm suggesting he's thinking that I'm trying to cement my place in the side while I break off.
In again, it's covered up, and there'll be no run. But
while we're quite a weak batting lineup.
I understand that, but if you're putting that pressure on people and saying, look, I've been thinking a lot about this lately because perhaps Bess has gone quite quickly through his overs, if not through the air. He's round again, pressed by Elgar, up to long on, should get a comfortable single. I've actually taken over the captaincy of our over 50s second 11 for next year, and our biggest problem is we score too slowly. Every other team in the league is scoring 5 and over, and we're scoring 4.
5 and over?
Oh yeah. Well, you think about it, because we play on good tracks with good outfields, and all the fielders are over 50.
Yeah. Good point. It's a good point. Can I just quickly say, you've got 3-4 minutes to enter the GPL. There's 8 entries so far. They are Des is back in. Our winner from yesterday has decided to reinvest some of his money. He's gone 239, 244, 246, 247, 249. And Seagrave Saab is on 259, 261 and 269.
Come on, get in there.
Get in there,
people.
About
Load on, load on.
A few gaps in there. 261 was the run scored yesterday, clipped behind square by Van der Dussen, and he's going to get an easy single. But and I'm thinking, well, if I want people to make a bit of a quantum leap and get from 4 and over to 5. On the flip side of that, I can't start dropping people after 1 or 2 bad scores.
No. Do you have lots and lots of over 50s to play?
We've got 8 games in the league.
About how many? What's your squad size?
Ah, well, then now that's a question. That's what I'm trying to figure out. We've just had to go down from 2 teams to 1. Hopefully big enough. This is the end of the over. It's 9 for 10. So I have to balance not making the team a closed shop, which a lot of over 50s teams are.
I can imagine.
They're kind of closed shops. I don't want it to be like that. But batsmen in particular, I have to give a fair chance, a fair run in the side, but as long as they're trying to score more quickly, even if it's not working in the first 2 games.
What are these idiots doing?
Is it a beer snake?
Some kind of it's going to be some kind of marketing thing. So ignore them, because they're all dressed they all dress the same, and they're all making chants and points, and they're all wearing stupid beards. So
I did make the point recently that, or earlier, that we are the only live ball-by-ball commentary that's not financed by Rupert Murdoch. To which Stephen Wright says, not Murdoch equals hilariously pro-England bias. Well, yes, we want England to win, but I think you'll find that we kind of...
You can try Guerilla South Africa.
We kind of appreciate,
good cricket.
Or good cricket, and as we say, there is a South African alternative if it's too pro-England biased for you.
Honestly,
let's be honest, we slate England when they do shit.
That's
well,
right.
exactly.
I try to be objective.
Well, we all do, really, I think, although you get disappointed when you see...
Instead of bowling a spinner 1 over before lunch, it's going to be Ben Stokes. 3 slips, back of a length. Van der Dussen interested in a run, but Elgar sent him back. I think this is going to be the last over before lunch.
Grubby's been in touch talking about Phil Tufnell. He says, was a master spinner and produced match-winning performances, moderate, average or otherwise.
That I do not buy that. That is just looking at, as I say, in 40 tests, looking at 2 or 3 and ignoring the other 38.
Leah has got to make a point about Michael Atherton in a minute. Well, she's already made it, but we'll tell you it in a minute.
Read it. Left alone by Van der Dussen. There's no run.
I'm going to try a different Stokes jingle. I don't know what this one is.
You simply the best.
Oh, that's
We
an
just
old
had that.
That's not it.
Simply Don Bess.
Yeah.
You're playing the wrong jingle, Bear.
Well, in what way is it wrong?
Well, it's not Bess, is it?
No, but
it's
Oh, sorry. Okay, fair enough.
Simply the Best joins Obladi Oblada as songs that have 2 jingles.
Yeah.
That one does beat the outside edge, zipped a bit off the pitch. Andrew Dussen played inside it.
Well, this
but
will
he
be the
did get
last
away with
over
it.
before lunch, so a wicket here would be quite handy.
Leah says, I'd argue that Atherton was a much better player than his average indicates. Just consider the fact he faced an average of just over 97 balls per innings.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think, you kind of...
That might have hit a crack a little bit from Stokes.
Yeah, could have done. It's certainly done something, hasn't it, off the pitch? I don't know, maybe we always look back at players and think they were better than they were.
Well, hindsight can play a lot of tricks, and memory can play a lot of tricks. That's too far onto leg stump. It's going to be an easy single for Van der Dussen, so he should be all right to lunch. In fact, no, they're going to pick up 2. So he's back on strike.
It is strange, actually, the conception of certain players. I mean, I see a lot of people describing Graham Thorpe as this nuggety little bloke who could play the ball around and keep the score moving and ticking over and that sort of thing. And that wasn't the Graham Thorpe that I recognised. It's what I recognised occasionally and perhaps later on in his career. But he was actually a very fluent batsman, who I really enjoyed watching.
I think how annoying players are after they retire really
that
clouds people's judgment of their careers. Look at Michael Vaughan.
Yeah, exactly.
Left alone outside off stump by Van der Dussen, whereas Atherton is brilliant on comms and erudite and very adept at picking up what's happening and very funny and quite self-effacing and that serves him well.
Yeah, exactly. I can just tell you that some of the FA Cup matches are kicking off now because it says 12:31 and they're all kicking off at 12:31 today, aren't they? And 15:01.
Why are they doing that? A minute for something?
Yes, there is a minute. I'll tell you what it is.
It's going to be last ball before lunch. Stokes to Van der Dussen. Lets it go. South Africa are going to go in, I assume, at 60 for 3, trailing by 209. We are indeed going to have a lunch break. Applause from Jimmy Anderson. And decent session for England. I think we said before we'd be happy with 3 down at lunch.
Yeah.
We have indeed got 3 for 60. Well, that's good going. Thoughts test average is 44.66.
Yeah, that's a cut above the rest.
Yeah,
certainly.
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
In 100 matches, so that's pretty good going. Let's see if anyone got in last-minute entries for the GPL. Yeah, oh God, 32 suddenly.
Wow.
Des has piled in once more. Messi Jez is in there. Arthur Shear's in
Piled
there.
in late.
The spread is from 232 all the way up to 311. Arthur Shear thinks it's going to be a high-scoring day. I don't think it is.
We've only had 69 runs this morning.
Yeah, indeed. Which would imply just about 210. Yeah, it's a half hour, maybe 240. If England take wickets, of course, it'll slow it all down.
Of course, England are bowling now, so he only had 24.5 overs in that session.
True.
Well, you get to take off the 10 minutes, haven't you, I suppose?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, you said, we said we'd be happy as England fans with 3 wickets down at lunch, but part of that tweet earlier was, 3 wickets down by lunch and 3 wickets down
All
by
day.
the close.
Yeah, well,
which could well happen.
And I think after lunch they'll come out and again the bats have got a reset, haven't they? There's a good chance to get a wicket straight after lunch. So the scorecard for South Africa: Dean Elgar is not out 35, so 62 balls, good batting by him. Peter Milan caught root bowl broad for 5. Zubair Hamza caught Stokes bowl broad for 5, and Faf du Plessis, the skipper, caught Stokes bowled Anderson for 1. Not out is Rativan de Dussen on 10. The bowling figures: Anderson 8 overs, 3 maidens, 1 for 22. Broad 6 overs, 4 maidens, 2 for 12. Sammy Curran 3 overs, 1 maiden, none for 10. Don Best 4 overs, no maidens, none for 10, and Ben Stokes has bowled the 1 over for 2 runs. That takes us to lunch.
Well, let me just get through a few final tweets before we break off for now. Arthur Patricia says, "Morning. I know I bang a drum this drum all the time, but part of the answer is more red ball specialist batters who don't play white ball," which is kind of what Andy was saying, I think, as much as anything. Messi Jez, I think he makes a good point, which supports mine to a certain extent. What about time spent in the middle, irrespective of the pitch? Just looking at Wisden for 1964, Dexter, as England captain, had 49 first-class innings, of which 33 were in county championship games. There has to be a lot of learning there. I think that's a very good point. Leah, wherever she is, I think it's in, is it Munich that you were in? Says, "The weather is terrible, so I'm making chicken soup, and I'd like to add some fried pak choy to that for nice freshness and crunch."
That sounds good.
Bruce Hampton says, "In that match, which we were talking about, in 99, Mullally was coming in at number 9, followed by Tufnell and Giddens. Must be the weakest bottom 3 ever." Tony Bishop says, "Yes, to Messi Jez, the learning is balanced pitches and county games played in mid-season when both batsman and bowler have the opportunity to hone their skills." Nick Martin says, "It's almost as if we had one before. Opening batter, highest ever run scorer for England." Comrade Bernsky says, "Not Rupert Murdoch sponsored equals not greedy fascists." I'd go along with that. Tony Bishop says, "Great idea." Lennox Lear about the cooking. "I love to stir fry it with garlic, ginger and soy sauce, chuck in chicken or prawns and or parboiled sliced new potatoes." So there you have it. You have a little bit of MasterChef on Guerilla Cricket. We'll be back in about 35 minutes. Please join us for the afternoon session. What are we going to listen to?
Well, because we played the Paul Smith interview and we've always had the first bit during the thing and the last bit, and as T carried it on, we've never got to listen to the last 30 minutes of it. So I'm going to actually go all the way through it, and you're going to listen to the last 35 minutes, 40 minutes of the Paul Smith interview that Tony Bishop did. After I've just checked whether I've got a particular jingle out of
Ben?
Yes.
That's good for the afternoon. I want that jingle. I love it. All right, off we go.
We were lucky we were the last generation that could probably go out and enjoy ourselves. So we could spend quite a lot of time in the bars talking. Some of the greatest lessons you learn in life as a sportsman could be in a bar situation. Maybe because of the fact that you may be drinking beer and you may be relaxed and you may be, sort of forget the disappointments that may have happened slightly earlier in the day on the field. But Willis was pivotal in our career. We speak to Gladstone Small, we speak to any of the guys who were young at that time. He was the nearest that we had as a mentor. He was always very good, even right up until recently. Many of us would sort of bump into and keep in touch. Obviously we didn't work together, so we didn't spend as much time with him as say the guys that worked at Sky. We lived in different cities, but I interviewed Bob 3 times in the last probably 3 or 4 years. he was just very good at keeping it really, really basic, and he didn't feel the need to write a page. I think the synopsis could be done in a sentence.
Instruction is a thing that I think coaches have.
That sort of nearly 40 years after the time where he became prominent in my life, I remember many of the sentences that he said to me. You know, if he mumbled on in the way that certain people do, where the message never really, the penny doesn't really drop. Willis should have been a poet.
It's his love of Bob Dylan. It's the old tennis ball analogy, isn't it? If I chuck 10 at you, how many do you catch? If I chuck 1 at you, how many do you catch? Unless you're drop ball for quite New Zealand. It was Joe Denley, wasn't it? Oh, that was a shock. Again, just a couple of names that have come out of we couldn't look at 1994 without mention of a certain BC Lara, who attracted a huge amount of media interest, obviously, 501 as it would. But you're quite defensive of him in the book, in a positive way. You know, you felt, I think, that he got a lot of criticism just for being the personality that he was, but was actually far more of a team player than the outside world gave him credit for. Would that be a fair assessment?
When he came to us, he was 24. He was a world record holder, having beaten Sir Garfield Sober's record weeks before, or days before, really. Within 5 weeks, he was a double world record holder. In a day and age where there was no protection. He was only 24. He was a guy from Trinidad who had been to England before. We'd met him before. We spent time with him before socially, as well as here. Big mates with Dwight York. He was playing at Aston Villa at the time. I would say he was the epitome of a team player. You know, when people criticise him, they say, Christ, look at the way he plays. When he walked off, having finished his career in international cricket, what he actually shouted to the crowd was, "Did I entertain you?" And it's a very pivotal sentence. But that's what he said, word for word, "Did I entertain you?" He sees cricket as a form of entertainment, and before he came to us, many times I used to stand in the middle of this grounds here or other cricket grounds, questioning whether the opponents actually thought that they were involved in entertainment, or whether this was just a personal, you know, case of they were coming out to bat and they were batting whatever way they could. And they were after scoring runs, and if they scored runs to the detriment of their team and bored the hell out of people who would pay money to watch, it seemed irrespective. In their eyes, whereas Brian always wanted to entertain, he always wanted to take the game forward. When people criticise him, call him selfish and this and the other, I would say he's the epitome of being the team player. You know, and I said it then, and I'd say it every day since. And the funny thing about it is, I get asked about Brian Lara probably every day of my life. And he'd always say the same things, and he got a bad rap when he was here. He wasn't protected. Jonathan Barnett was his agent. Jonathan Barnett's job is to make Brian as much money as he possibly can, and himself as much money as possibly could. But there was never a constant shield around him. If Brian Lara was the superstar today on the field that he was then, he would have a posse of people around him protecting him. He never had that.
Well, inevitably that 501. By the way, for the record, I think we've got 151 in that game. It was John Morris, the famous co-pilot of the Gower biplane. He had made 200 odd by the time you got him. But you did. So, I mean, the other person I wanted just to touch on is a friend of Guerilla cricket. Show a couple of times at Gladstone School. You shared a house with Gladstone, didn't you? To them, you can tell us about Gladstone.
I can tell you many stories about Gladstone Small. We lived together for 3 years in Birmingham, and we probably spent 6 or 7 months living together in Melbourne. I think it was. I'm not sure it was a house that Gladstone and I shared. Maybe it was the summer before our 3 years living together. I remember Gladstone. Maybe it was a place we had. We had an old style kettle which you put on a flame, not an electric one. And we were having this battle as to, this is typical of young sportsmen, maybe young men as well, but we were all refusing to wash the pots and pans and the dishes up, so it was just getting higher and higher and higher in the kitchen. We even started to put them in the bath. And I remember Gladstone coming home as a single guy, as we all were at that time, and he brought a girl back for a cup of coffee from the pub across the road. And I was sat in the corner of the kitchen, and I watched Gladstone take the kettle, take the top off, go over to the tap, fill it full of water, put the top back on, put it on the flame, and I knew that I'd just cooked a tin of baked beans in that kettle, but Gladstone obviously didn't. So as he was sweet talking this young woman in the kitchen, I declined. I said, "Listen, I'm out of here. Have a pleasant evening, you two," and went up to my room and planned the rest of my evening. And then as I was about to go out, and Gladstone about 2 minutes later shouted my name up, and he didn't have to explain. He'd obviously sort of put the coffee in the cups and then gone to pour the water in, and had a load of baked beans floating on top of these. And that was the last of the milk as well, so I'd completely stuffed his evening up. But no, there's many funny. We laughed and joked, and we worked hard and we played hard, as a couple of young guys, and obviously there's many experiences on and off the field, that some of which are shared, some aren't.
So, I mean, let's sort of to get us onto some of the discussion about Los Angeles and some of that activity. I just wanted to sort of, as you came to the end of your career, clearly, as we think about that whole thought about confidence and purpose, that is central to the way you think about life, the way you think about coaching and mentoring, and the way you played. You had it collectively and you had it individually for much of your career, and clearly through that sort of 94 season you had it in spades. I think you played your last game at Lords in 96. Yep. Yeah. By the way, you caught Tufnell Bowl Fraser. And there you go. What a way to go.
and Philip Tufnell would tell you to this day, if he'd had that catch to take 100 times, he would drop it 99 times out of 100. It was quite remarkable. And never has a cricket ball been hit so far up in the air at Lord's Cricket Ground for someone like Philip Tufnell to be stood underneath it, and for him to catch it was remarkable. Happy times, and it was somewhat ironic that I finished my career at Lord's Cricket Ground, where it had all started as an MCC young cricketer so many years before. So Lord's has many, to this day, it has so many memories.
So there's sort of the more serious question I was coming on to was, as we got to 96, at what point, was there a single defining point where you thought to yourself, I just don't want to do this anymore? Did it creep up on you, take you by surprise, or did you kind of think, had other things in life started to deflect and distract that you weren't quite sure, and there it was as a surprise?
Once Bob Woolmer had left here, I knew it was only going to go downhill. I think that the more successful you become, the more doors open. Some of the doors that opened were ones that hopefully wouldn't be open to other people. That I'm thinking the negative doors there. Some of the other doors that opened were things like the opportunity to go and spend time in America and explore that, not only as a country but also the potential to go and do work there. So I would say that really Bob leaving September 1994, that was a stage where I'd achieved everything that I'd set out to achieve. 95 was a formality really in terms of results. We turned up pre-season, we trained hard, we had the season that we did a double. In theory, if we'd argued on a technicality, that should really have been another treble as well. So really by the end of 1995, I turned up in 1996. It's not a happy summer for me. I didn't really want to be around. I didn't think that I'd seen better coaching, I'd seen better this, I'd seen better that, and really my eyes were elsewhere.
So is it, I mean, this in the book, this is where you sort of talked about the euphoria of the mid-90s being emotionally challenging. If you sort of take that euphoria, those peaks that you reached, and then the fact that things were not quite the same, you kind of, it's like a bit of a perfect storm then, because at the same time there's stuff going on in your own life that's distracting, and it sort of ground to a halt a bit, didn't it? Just before we go on to talk us a little bit maybe through how you went from that very challenging period to starting to move life forward again, and some of the amazing work that you then went and did with the Prince's Trust, Cricket Without Boundaries, etc.
I am. You talk about euphoria. As someone who's always been a petrol head and always had American cars, I went to Houston, Texas, walked into a Dodge dealership and walked out with a V10 Dodge Viper, two-seater sports car, 8,000 cc's, and drove it from Houston to LA. That was pretty euphoric. And that's a car that I had for 18 months. I mean, it seems a pretty crazy sort of, to go from being a professional sportsman or whatever. I wanted to put to bed everything that, if you like, giving me my name. I wanted to go to a country, be totally anonymous. I spent time in Houston. I lived with 3 women.
All at the same time?
Well, all 3 of them were there.
Oh, right.
All 3 of them were there at all times. They studied at the University of Austin. And sometimes when they were in class, I would go and sit in the library on the campus and sit and basically I studied funding. Or I would look and speak to people who worked in that library. I'd talk about funding, how you could fund certain activities in America. The extremes were greater. You talk about gang life, that was fascinating. Talk about homelessness. There's 300 million people in America, so there's more guns, there's more homelessness, there's more gangs. And these things were incredibly visual. Maybe because I was a stranger in town, it was more obvious to me. Other things that people took for granted, rough parts of town, they bypassed those places. I didn't. I drove straight through them. I walked through them at times. It was the start of a huge adventure for me. And I would be in and out of the States, back in this country. If I was going to be able to see my kids, I would come back and I would hopefully see them. Sometimes I came back and I wasn't able to see them, and I would jump straight back on the next plane and go back to the States. It was almost like having gypsy residence, really. I had a bag over my shoulder and I just went. When I got back to Houston, I had an 8-litre, 2-litre sports car which I could cruise around in. I had a purpose, but to the outside world, often people probably thought I was drifting. But I was there. I looked at exactly what I knew. I knew that what I'd been involved in off the field, in townships, and in coaching, and having had the creme de la creme of coaches, if you like, in Bob Woolmer, plus in theory he's a psychologist as well as anything else, much more beyond bat and ball. With the education I had, I didn't have an ECB level whatever coaching badge, but if you sent an ECB coach into those environments, they wouldn't last 2 minutes. I had a much better chance because A, I didn't look like a coach, B, I think I had a fair understanding of people and how to communicate with them, and once they knew that you were genuine, certain places they thought that you were a narc, they thought you were an undercover cop, and once I'd persuaded them that I would spend most of my life trying to avoid undercover cops, that you had them on your side, and then you start to open doors, and then the real adventure starts, which obviously further down the road led to sort of being invited to go and spend time in LA and to go back to South Africa and coach.
Well, the sequence of events that kind of took you there, and then some of the experiences, is something I wanted to sort of really make sure that we talked about, because it's a long old way from Lord's final to the street gangs of Compton, South Central, and Inglewood, and which kind of came first? Because you've done a lot of work here that led to the sort of the Prince's Trust Association. Sure. Then I think you talked about was it Ted Hayes? Have I got the name right? Ted Hayes. And you ended up, I say, with the Crips and the Bloods, and you're right there at the front line of the worst of LA gangland, teaching them cricket and using cricket as a force to turn around lives. That's a chasm that you've leapt. Just tell us how you got there.
What actually happened? I sat with a guy called Tim Watts, who was the chairman of Pertemps Group. So Pertemps are a recruitment company, and I'd known Tim since probably when I very first came here, 16, 17. He had a hospitality suite here, and we would come in and drink beer with him at the end of play. And right at the very end of my career, I remember sitting with him in his office in Meriden, and he said, "What are you going to do?" I said, I don't want to be a coach, I don't want to be a teacher, but I think there's a role in between. And he said, go away, get some experience, come back to me and talk to me, see if there's a way that we can sort of merge and see what we can do. And pretty much immediately after that, I went and spent some time in America. As I said, I spent time in a university library and came up with the name of Cricket Without Boundaries. And the idea was to try and take the sport into places where they didn't know what it was, but link sport to education to lead to employment. So it would, in a way, it would fit.
This was in America. This was
So
in LA.
the idea came to me, and in a way, unofficially, I worked with a small group of people, and then I didn't have a recruitment company at the end of it waiting to try and get these people back into work, but it was the art of positive thinking.
No.
If I could do something unofficially and people would turn up, the more they turned up, it would improve them as people, because they would get used to turning up because there was an activity taking place. Most people do that because it's a place of work. This was just an activity which would maybe do something for an hour a day. If they turned up regularly, they would have fun. They may bring more people. There would be positives that would come from it. I came back to the UK to see my kids, sat with Tim in his office in Meriden, and I said, this is what I would like to do. We then formed two companies. One was called Coach Right, which was to try and target kids in schools that had difficulties, and link sport to academic accreditation, so that would be key skills accreditation. So as long as we could prove that learning was taking place through sport, those kids would get key skills accreditation.
So this was after the initial LA experience?
No, what I was talking about was actually took place in Houston. So we formed a company called Coach Right. We also formed a company called Cricket Without Boundaries, where we work with the long-term unemployed. So the unemployed had to be unemployed for over 4.5 years, because that was the only funding available to us. I spoke to Dennis Amos here, who was the chief executive, and put forward the proposition that we use the indoor school and they become part of that partnership, which they did. And we ran schemes where we would put anything from between 12 and 15 people who'd been unemployed for 4.5 years through. It could be a 12-week program, it could be a 6-week program. What it meant was that in the indoor school here, which had just been built, which was hardly being used by the community, all of a sudden half of the sports hall and the classroom was being used for 40 weeks of the year, minimum. So we ran that. It was hugely successful, as was the Coach Right scheme. At one stage, anything up, I think, between 4,000 and 4,500 kids a week were getting coaching. And it was linked to academic accreditation, so it moved them forward in lots of different ways. What it also did is it put a coach, it added an additional teacher to each school at a time where teachers were being pulled out of school because of lack of funding. So those two companies were set up, they ran, I mentored all the coaches, because an ECB qualified coach wouldn't be the best person to deliver those programs. It was solely about the art of communication, and you had to be covered in other areas, things like insurance and stuff like that. So we weren't necessarily looking for cricket coaches, we were looking for people with excellent communication skills who got their audience, who knew the problems that they were going through. So I set all that up, ran it for some time, went to the States after that. Those companies ran for 10 years. I was back in Houston, and a woman called Katie Haber, who's a movie director, she contacted me from LA.
We're involved in Sam Peckinpah in some capacity, isn't it?
Sam Peckinpah's long-term partner, but Sam had passed away some time before I appeared on the scene. But so you had a woman, an English Rose, who lived in West Hollywood, who asked me what I was up to. We had this long discussion. She told me about this cricket team she was trying to progress. They were based in Compton. She had formed this team with a political activist for the homeless called Ted Hayes.
Just the Homies and the Pops.
So initially the team was called Homies and Pops, yeah. Initially, it was called Compton Cricket, the Compton Crickets. So anyway, they had this team. Katie asked me if I would get involved. I went and spent time there. The idea really for me was to progress this team, to try and get funding from something like the ICC, whether that be from ICC Central, an additional pot, or through, because obviously the ICC put money into American cricket. It's a very small amount of money, really, for a country the size of the United States of America. So it would then be centralized, which would be California, which would be even smaller sum of money. What I was saying to the ICC, we'd speak to presidents, we'd speak to prime ministers in this country, use them as an example of kids in gangs, moving them out of gangs, because really it comes down to something as simple as, if you can get hold of a group of people who are consistently in trouble, if you can take them away from that area, say for 8 or 9 hours a day, or at a weekend, at least you knew when you were with them they weren't getting into trouble, and the police would also know that. And so the idea was to teach them a sport, keep them out of trouble, try and structure their lives so that at any time of the day, if they were in trouble, they could pick up a phone and someone would go pick them up and take them into a different part of town. Because you're talking about life and, well, death is easy come, easy go there. Guns are carried like people carry mobile phones. So cricket was the thing that would draw them, in a way, because it was the most visual side of it, but the psychological side of it was to move them into employment or to keep them out the system. Sometimes it was a matter of speaking to judges to try and keep them out of jail. It was about trying to educate young people about what they actually knew about what they were very good. They knew what gangs were. They knew what the thing is. It's very difficult if you're sat in front of a kid who earns $1,500 a day selling drugs and say, don't do that, son, do this, go to college, do this, where they earn not 1 cent. Something normally had to happen in order for those kids to turn their lives, and often it would be the loss of a brother, a sister, something that would happen right in front of them. Sometimes it would be a case where a copper would take him around the corner and do what a copper shouldn't do, which is pin him up against the wall and say, listen, mate, unless you change your life, you'll never see daylight ever again. So, the cops play a big part in that. I think little things that people don't understand is if you go and work in those environments and you say, right, we can get our hands on money, and I knew how to get our hands on money because I understood the funding streams, but the biggest problem was no one would ever tell you where they lived. So you didn't have zip codes, you didn't have postcodes, you couldn't sit down and say, right, Fred Smith lives in Compton and this is his zip code. You couldn't do things like that because no one would ever give their addresses out because it wasn't in your best interest. So what you have to do is you have to speak to police forces and say things like, when we put on activities, less kids get shot, can we talk? And they would know that would be the case anyway, so you get letters of references from police forces, you get letters of reference from community leaders, you get letters of reference, and you just have to build a profile that indicates that good work is taking place.
So, I mean, again, the way you portray it in the book is fascinating. Linking some of those challenges back to cricket, I'm just trying to imagine in my mind's eye, you talk about, players that you've coached, being shot literally the day when you've just finished coaching them. You talk about Execution Junction, the frequency of funerals, and harrowing stories. I'm just trying to picture how you take kids in that environment, or young people, and suddenly, or probably not suddenly, they are playing cricket. And although cricket is the means to an end, it's not the end. It's a complex game to get people to get somehow.
Ultimately it's about gaining people's trust. I mean, what is more frightening, facing the quickest bowler in the world in a game of cricket? in front of 30,000 people, or walking into a crack den in South Central Los Angeles and hanging around, and people don't quite know why you're there. But ultimately, it's about, I mean, you know, I've seen 1 million people do crack. You know, it happens in all sorts of walks of life, well, from the biggest houses that you could ever drive by to the biggest dumps in terms of, you know, parts of town. It happens in all sorts of environments. So if you have to gain people's trust, you know, people, I would be called a ball player in America. That not many people knew what cricket was. But I was a professional sportsman. That was my background. I was different. I didn't turn up in a tracksuit. I was still young enough where I could actually demonstrate I could bowl a ball with speed and I could hit the ball miles. My eyes were still good. So I was a bit different. The fact that I was also willing to go into places, parts of town that other people didn't go, that might have intrigued certain people as well. But I mean, for me, we have the freedom of the land. It's not like South Africa, where if you're a certain colour you can't go into certain parts of town. In virtually every country I've been in the world, I've always thought the tourist bits never really interested me. If I wanted to see Disneyland, I could go to Disneyland. I've spent loads of time in America. Disneyland would not interest me in the slightest. However, the you know, sort of West Hollywood, Sunset Strip, that would interest me because of the history of it. But the gangland areas were absolutely fascinating. And if you talk about that period of life, you talk about people like Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls, and it's a huge era within hip-hop music. There's a lot of activity going on. It was a great time. It was a great time to be an observer. I'm not sure it was a great time to be a local. So to be able to have the possibility of going in and doing good work and showing what... The biggest disappointment for me regarding the United States of America is that Katie Haber and Ted Hayes started something up. I was involved in it. Nick Compton came in slightly further down the line, probably a bit further down the line. But despite the fact that I wrote to David Cameron here in this country and said, you've got a huge problem with gangs in this country. If anything, all my travels far and wide, if ever there's a group of individuals who should come, spend time in this country, go in front of young people up and down this country and talk about what gang life really is like, because in this country, it's Toy Town in comparison to what I saw in the United States of America or I've seen in South Africa. Yes, a lot of people get knifed here, a lot of people get shot here. Of course, there are problems with gangs, but the numbers and what's at stake in the States was so much higher. We wrote to Cameron, Katie and I, we wrote to President of the United States. Arnold Schwarzenegger and his department were very good. They found ways of supporting it in different ways. Sometimes it would be a case of finding money to bury kids there was no money to bury them. But we wrote to all sorts of people. The ICC, no one would put money into it. And then somewhat ironically, was the last letter that Katie and I wrote to David Cameron. He didn't reply to it initially, so I then resent the letter to 10 Downing Street and said, this is the letter that we sent you 3 weeks ago or whatever it was. Can you acknowledge it, and is there any way that you can assist us? We were actually asking for 70,000, the equivalent of 70,000 US dollars. And because of the work that I'd done here in this country, I knew people up and down this country and still do. And from London, people were saying, it's going to kick off in London in a big way, and it was linked to a guy that had been shot in Tottenham. Mm-hmm. And we wrote to Cameron. We said we think that this should actually take place. We had a sponsor to bring him into this country, which we lost right at the very last moment, which meant that Katie and I wrote to David Cameron and said, there is a problem in this country regarding gangs. These group of people from LA were due to arrive here. We've lost our sponsor. Is there any way you can point us in the direction of, or organise payment to get them here, equivalent to 70,000 US dollars, which I think was 50,000 sterling at the time. And he told me to write to he after ignoring the first letter, it wasn't he who replied, for the second to the second letter. The letter said we should speak to Warwickshire County Cricket Club and we should speak to the English Cricket Board, which shows that you may go to Eton, but it doesn't mean you're the brightest kid on the block. What it actually meant was they completely misunderstood the angle that we were actually coming from, and within days you had the riots up and down this country, both in London, Manchester, Liverpool, certainly Birmingham here. That would be one of the biggest disappointments of my post-career.
And yet you describe your time in LA. You describe your time in LA as you said, of all the activities I've been attached to, I believe this was the one which could have opened up cricket to a massive non-playing audience. Sounds to me like the government here was seeing it as a cricket proposition. You were seeing it as a social proposition which could have strong, tangible results, of which cricket was a route.
This was a community activity. It wasn't a cricket activity. This was all my work post-career is about moving people forward. The fact that I have a background in cricket is neither here nor there. And sometimes, because I have a background in cricket, that's made it the most obvious way in order to apply for funding. But ultimately, the outcome is for a better world.
Yep. So it's kind of different to the problem, because one of the thoughts I was toying with, I look at what the ECB does with its All Stars initiative, which I think has